The very first thing I did after turning into a zombie was run around scavenging for baby formula and diapers. All because I adopted a human baby girl. The other zombies probably mocked me for being an idiot. But little did they know, this baby was actually the reincarnation of the human Empress. She once conquered the four corners of the world, survived countless life and death tribulations, and slaughtered countless alien experts. In the end, she was brutally ambushed while undergoing her heavenly tribulation, dying at the hands of the Star Zerg Queen. Now, she has been reborn, returning to the beginning of the apocalypse 50 years ago. Except, she turned into a newborn baby. As for me, I was attacked by zombies the moment I transmigrated to this world, and eventually, I became one of them. Fortunately, I managed to retain my human consciousness. I relied on some frozen meat I found in a convenience store fridge to survive for a whole month. But now, the meat in the fridge has started to rot, even though zombies can eat rotten meat. Someone with a human mind like me absolutely refuses to accept that. Left with no other choice, I had to disguise myself as a normal zombie and go out to find food. Just as I entered a house and was about to sneak into the kitchen. I suddenly heard a baby crying from the next room. When I pried open the bedroom door, I found the room warmly decorated. A stark contrast to the bloodstains out in the living room. On the large bed, there was actually a 6 or 7-month-old baby girl wailing her lungs out. Perhaps in their final moments, the couple had locked the bedroom door tight to protect their child. At the same time, Yun Ruoxu was in complete despair. I finally managed to be reborn with such difficulty. And the first thing I see isn't my parents, but a damn zombie. She hadn't eaten anything for a long time, coupled with the sheer terror of this moment. Under the torment of physiological fear and extreme hunger, Yun Ruoxu fainted. Looking at this little kid, I was a bit surprised, even though she was only 5 or 6 months old. Her eyes revealed a deep sense of sorrow and helplessness. In that moment, I suddenly felt a pang of sympathy. Both this kid and I were brought into this world for no reason, and we're both unlucky wretches caught in this apocalyptic nightmare. This new life suddenly appearing before my eyes was like a ray of light in the pitch-black darkness, giving me a new sense of direction. So, I decided to adopt the little one. But then, I suddenly realized the kid seemed to have passed out from hunger, and the formula can in the room was completely empty. I decided to head out and find some baby formula. I tightly closed and locked the bedroom door where the kid was, and pushed the sofa to block the entrance, just to keep any zombies from breaking in. After a fruitless search for food in the kitchen, I had no choice but to head upstairs to keep looking. The third-floor hallway was covered in dry, dark brown bloodstains. Unidentifiable body parts were scattered across the floor, even though the apartment doors were wide open. The stench of rot was still overwhelmingly nauseating. There were even a few mangled zombies wandering the hall. I was already used to this sight, so I walked straight into the apartments to scavenge. But after ransacking several kitchens in a row, I didn't find any formula. I only found some raw meat that hadn't completely rotted yet. It wasn't until I reached an apartment on the 5th floor. The female homeowner had turned into a zombie, and she had devoured her own child. I fell silent. If the little one hadn't been locked inside that bedroom, I'm afraid she would have met the exact same fate. Luckily, I found 2 unopened cans of formula in the kitchen, along with 2 pounds of raw meat that hadn't gone bad yet. In her daze, Yun Ruoxu felt the taste of milk flowing into her mouth. She instinctively began to suckle. After regaining some energy, she struggled to open her eyes, only to realize she wasn't dead yet. There was even a zombie acting like a nanny, spoon-feeding her milk. In the memories of her past life, zombies were nothing but bloodthirsty monsters. She had even personally put down comrades who had turned into zombies. Could it be? This zombie wants to fatten me up before eating me. I had no idea what the kid was thinking. Seeing her open her eyes again, I felt a wave of absolute relief. But since the little one hadn't eaten in so long, even after I finished feeding her a whole bowl of formula, she still wasn't full. For a moment, I forgot I was a zombie. I opened my mouth to speak, only to realize all that came out was a low growl. So, I shut my mouth and quietly turned around. It took 3 consecutive bowls of milk to finally fill her up. I sighed inwardly. Raising a kid is no walk in the park. I realized it'd need to stockpile a lot more formula from now on. Good thing sealed formula has a long shelf life, so I don't have to worry about it spoiling. After eating and drinking her fill, Yun Ruoxu lay contentedly in the baby crib. She found the whole situation utterly absurd. The aura coming from the zombie in front of her was crystal clear. It was a Tier 1 zombie that had only recently mutated. Moreover, its strength was incredibly weak. A zombie of this level shouldn't possess any sentience whatsoever. She couldn't wrap her head around what was going on. But as an empress who had weathered all kinds of life and death tribulations, Yun Ruoxu gradually calmed down. Although she was still terrified inside, she figured that even if the zombie really wanted to eat her, at least she'd die on a full stomach. So, she stopped worrying too much. The nervous tension caused by days of starvation and fear was now completely released. Yun Ruoxu couldn't help but fall into a deep sleep. I looked at the little one's sleeping face. and couldn't help but curl my lips into a smile. This was the first time I felt such peace and beauty, but leaving a baby just a few months old in this place was a guaranteed death sentence. So, I decided to take her with me. This was an old 7-story residential building. The second floor wasn't safe right now, but the 7th floor was the top floor, making it relatively safer. Perhaps because it was an old neighborhood. There weren't that many zombies around. But these zombies were already driven mad by hunger. I didn't dare swagger through the streets with a baby in tow. So, I used my crowbar to quietly smash their heads in from behind, cleaning up all the zombies along the way. After getting the little ones settled in, I went to take a shower and changed into some clean clothes. Right now, aside from the somewhat gruesome wounds, I looked no different from a normal person. But the most important thing was, inside this apartment, I found a pretty complete set of baby supplies. I guessed a family had fled in a hurry when the apocalypse broke out, leaving all these things behind. Maybe because I've been moving around so much lately. My limbs, which were incredibly stiff after turning into a zombie, seemed to have become much more flexible. I could even perform some simple human movements. Though I found it puzzling, I didn't dwell on it too much. My mind was entirely focused on Yun Ruoksu, just as I grabbed a diaper to change her. A shocking thought suddenly popped into Yun Ruoksu's mind. If me feeding her earlier only left her confused, then seeing me know how to change a diaper made her absolutely certain that I probably still retained my human consciousness. Recalling the details from our first encounter, she realized I was different from other zombies. I knew how to turn a doorknob, how to use a crowbar to pry open a door, and even how to mix baby formula to feed her. But these behaviors were completely inconsistent with the instincts of a normal Tier 1 zombie. She became even more convinced that I still had my human mind, believing that only human willpower could suppress a zombie's bloodthirsty instincts. But the next second,
Yun Ruoksu's eyes widened in shock.
this zombie in front of her didn't look like a woman at all. To think her lifelong pristine reputation would be ruined over a diaper, but she quickly let it go. After all, being able to reincarnate was already a stroke of luck. Besides, this zombie saved her life. She shouldn't sweat the small stuff. Yun Ruoksu watched my stiff body, clumsily trying to change her diaper. She felt a mix of being touched and a bitter sadness. She imagined that I once had a happy family, only to become a zombie when the apocalypse struck. The loneliness and agony of not being able to fit into any human group touched the softest part of her heart. So, she decided to accept me as her zombie dad. After I finished cleaning up our new home, considering the food needs for both me and the kid, I decided I had to stockpile more supplies. However, going out during the day would arouse suspicion from survivors, making it easy to expose myself and the little one. Therefore, I chose to act at night. Before leaving, not only did I shut the bedroom door tight, I even used a cabinet to block the stairwell door, just in case zombies or humans tried to break in. I had seen many people resort to any means necessary just to survive, knowing full well that the apocalypse brings out the darkest sides of human nature. I had to be extremely cautious. I tied the iron gate on the first floor securely, and only then did I start scavenging for supplies. Although the neighboring households didn't have much stocked up, every little bit adds up. I managed to gather quite a bit of food. After stuffing my hiking backpack full, I grabbed an armful of baby formula and walked into the dark night. But suddenly, I noticed something was wrong. Only then did I realize the moon hanging high in the sky had turned blood red. At the same time, Yun Ruoshu woke up to find the room completely empty. She leisurely relieved herself in her diaper when she suddenly saw the blood moon outside the window. Looks like the era of global evolution is about to begin. Seeing the blood moon, I was a bit surprised. But since I was in a zombie apocalypse and had seen similar scenes in sci-fi movies, I quickly accepted the phenomenon. Figuring this was just how the apocalypse was supposed to look, I kept transporting supplies non-stop, not even sparing the books. But on my fourth trip, I suddenly felt something wrong with my body. Inside my cold body, a strange, scorching heat began to rise. It felt both foreign and familiar. If I had returned to when I was still alive. But right after, an unbearable itch spread through my brain, making my head feel like it was going to explode. I guessed my human consciousness was about to vanish, and I was about to turn into a pure, bloodthirsty zombie. Panic completely overwhelmed me. Besides me, even the other zombies were undergoing the exact same transformation under the moonlight. Even the survivors bathed in the moonlight felt their bodies burning up, their blood circulating faster, and even their bones becoming tougher. And Yun Ruoksu, who was in the bedroom, was also enveloped by the blood-red moonlight. Her tiny body trembled slightly, her whole body burning hot. I don't know how much time passed, but I finally regained consciousness. Although I didn't notice any obvious changes in my surroundings, the moment I started moving, I realized my body was much more agile than before. It was no longer stiff like when I first became a zombie. To my surprise, the black veins on my body had faded, and hair was starting to grow back on my head. Even the zombies wandering the streets had changed. Their initially hideous and terrifying appearance was less scary now, looking a bit more human. A spark of joy ignited within me. It seems this world isn't as simple as I thought. As I walked past a zombie, A strange feeling welled up inside me. I couldn't shake the feeling that between me and this zombie, there was some kind of connection. It scared me, making me think I was hallucinating. But then I suddenly realized I seemed to have gained a special superpower. I could transmit my thoughts through that connection into the zombie, just like controlling a puppet. After focusing my mind, I noticed the connection with the zombie growing stronger, and I successfully controlled it to perform complex movements. I named this ability Corpse Control, and after testing it multiple times, I found out I could currently only control a maximum of 2 zombies at a time. And if the distance was too far, I couldn't transmit commands accurately. I figured this probably had to do with my mental strength. I then named the controlled zombies Corpse Puppets. Feeling a bit tired, I suddenly remembered Yun Ruoxu was home alone. I immediately controlled the 2 corpse puppets, making them carry the pile of scavenged supplies and hurried back to the apartment. I gotta say, zombies are natural-born beasts of burden. They don't eat, don't drink, and don't ask for a paycheck. At the same time, after being baptized by the blood moon, Yun Ruoxu woke up from her coma as a massive amount of information flooded her brain. She was filled with excitement, unlike the talent she awakened in her past life. This time, she even awakened the power of telekinesis, allowing her to manipulate objects with her mind. And what surprised her the most was, she had actually regained her time manipulation ability from her past life. Both of these talents had the potential to make her a top-tier expert. In her past life, relying solely on time manipulation, I reached the throne of the Empress. Not to mention, in this life, I've awakened dual talents. Both offense and defense will be absolutely god-tier. After Yun Ruoxu tried using her powers, because her infant body was too fragile, it didn't take long for my head to start aching and feeling completely drained. Even though my mental strength is incredibly weak right now, I'm still full of hope for the future. I believe that, as I grow up, my future strength will far surpass my previous life. I even started fantasizing about growing up and surpassing my past self, and personally destroying the Zerg Queen. Suddenly, there was a noise outside. Yun Ruoxu secretly guessed. It must be her zombie dad returning. I can't help but be curious now. A zombie with human consciousness after undergoing the baptism. Would he be like a human and awaken a special ability too? Seeing that the wardrobe in the hallway hadn't been moved, I breathed a sigh of relief. This was the first time since coming to this world that I felt attached to and worried about someone. I gently pushed the wardrobe aside and rushed into the bedroom, seeing Yun Ruoxu still awake, looking at me so obediently, even though I had never even been in a relationship before. At this moment, I truly felt like a father. After that, I went into the kitchen. But since the power and water were cut off, I could only use bottled mineral water to mix the baby formula. While I was stirring the formula,
Yun Ruoxu was also sizing up her zombie dad.
I noticed he had changed, but it wasn't very obvious. At least he looks a bit more human now. This is different from the evolved zombies in my memories. In my past life, zombies had many evolutionary paths, like the tank-type zombies, whose bodies became abnormally huge and robust. Their ability to take a beating was incredibly outstanding. No different from a main battle tank on the battlefield. They were the absolute nightmare of survivors. But originally, for a special zombie like him, I had huge expectations for his evolution after the baptism. After all, in the apocalypse, formidable strength is the key to survival. But seeing that his changes weren't that significant, I couldn't help but feel a bit disappointed. So, Yun Ruoxu secretly made a resolution. Once I grow up, I must possess immense strength to protect him. I know very well that if it weren't for me reincarnating into this baby, he would have definitely died in this apocalypse. I am someone who always repays my debts, let alone a life-saving grace as massive as the heavens. You raise me when I'm small, and ill care for you when you're old. That should never be just empty words. Not to mention, I know exactly how zombies primarily evolve. The main method of evolution is by devouring living creatures. Besides that, it's hunting for the crystal cores inside zombie brains. Those bizarre zombies that have awakened supernatural abilities, no matter what type they are, will form a crystal core in their minds. I'm confident that with my reincarnation advantage, I can hunt them down and use the crystal cores to help him evolve into a high-tier zombie. By then, he'll regain the ability to speak, and his body will gradually transform back into a human. I was completely oblivious to the little one's thoughts. I just saw her staring blankly at me and found it incredibly amusing. Even though I couldn't speak, I still gestured to the kid, wanting to tell her that I had arranged 2 zombie bodyguards for us. I even prepared some toys for her. Of course, besides toys, I even brought back 5 years of mock exams, 3 years of Gaokao, and various other reading books. I suddenly realized I still hadn't given Yun Ruoxu a name. After thinking about it for a while, since we were on the 7th floor, I decided to give her the nickname Kichi. I hope this name would help us remember the good times in this little 7th floor apartment. I felt satisfied with the supplies I had gathered overnight. I figured it was enough to feed me and Chichi for a long time. Considering the unpredictability of the apocalypse, I decided to stay home and observe the situation for a while. I'd only go out once I was sure it was safe. I walked out to the living room and picked up a steel machete about half a meter long. I don't know what the previous owner of this house actually did for a living to own such a long and incredibly sharp machete like this, although I had never learned any blade techniques. Thanks to the formidable physical strength of a zombie, I could swing this machete smoothly and effortlessly. I recalled the moves from wuxia novels and martial arts movies, and started practicing right there in the living room. With a blade in hand, I definitely felt at ease now. Taking on multiple enemies at once wouldn't be a problem. While I was practicing my blade skills, Yun Ruoxu, after resting for a bit, started studying her innate talents again. As for her newly awakened telekinesis, I focused my mind to control a silver needle, resting on the nightstand. Although my control speed is still sluggish right now, the silver needle still began to glide through the air. Just like that, time flew by in a flash. 2 days have passed. We've both been living these days to the fullest. Just now, after I finished feeding Yun Ruoxu her milk, I heard a noise outside. Looking through the balcony window, I saw down on the street, 2 zombies, even though they weren't fighting over food, were tearing into each other in a vicious brawl. This abnormal behavior completely defied everything I knew about zombie habits. Since my floor was too high up, I couldn't see clearly. So I decided to go down to the 4th floor to check out the situation. One zombie was nearly 2 meters tall, possessing immense strength and extremely muscular. The other zombie had a slender build, but its claws were as sharp as daggers. The muscular tanker-type zombie had strong defense, while the agile-type zombie had high attack power, but it struggled to pierce through the other's defenses. After a chaotic melee, the tanker zombie relied on its brute strength to send the agile zombie flying. A final punch smashed the opponent's head, killing it instantly, and a white crystal core popped out from its skull. I was shocked by their terrifying strength, which far surpassed my own. Thank God I was cautious enough not to go outside. It seems this world is even more brutal than I imagined. I absolutely cannot get complacent just because of a little evolution. After seeing the tanker zombie dig out the crystal core, an intense craving surged within me. My instincts told me that this crystal core would benefit my body. Could it be that the fierce battle between these 2 zombies was just a fight over the crystal core in the other's head? I watched the massive zombie swallow the white crystal core, then excitedly beat its chest and roar. It started frantically smashing the surrounding cars. A few ordinary zombies nearby heard the commotion, and all froze in a daze. Then they all chose to keep their distance. Their instincts made them fear this zombie. I guess that the crystal core could probably enhance a zombie's evolutionary abilities, especially that primal hunger that arose upon seeing the crystal core. It far exceeded the desire for flesh and blood. If I could eat a crystal core, it would definitely improve my ability to control zombies. But right now, I'm clearly no match for this guy. Suddenly, I spotted the gas cylinder in the kitchen. I immediately thought of a way to deal with it. At the same time, Yun Ruoxu also heard the noise outside, even though she couldn't see what was happening downstairs. Based on her experience from her past life, she guessed that after the global blood moon, the peak period of evolution had begun. Zombies and vicious beasts were slaughtering each other to evolve. Survivors were starting to hunt for crystal cores, and even developing cultivation methods. And Yun Ruoxu, as the peerless empress of the human race, the technique she cultivated in her previous life was the supreme glazed breathing technique. Yun Ruoxu knew very well that her zombie dad was just an ordinary low-level zombie. It would be hard for him to survive in the apocalypse. She had to quickly improve her strength to protect them both. Even though she was just a baby right now, she could still cultivate the glazed breathing technique. Taking advantage of the energy factors spreading in the air after the blood moon, she began to cultivate. After circulating her energy, her body trembled. The energy factors slowly entered her body. Yun Ruoxu felt lucky to have been reborn, so that right from the early stages of the apocalypse, she could use the glazed breathing technique, cultivating a massive amount of energy. It flooded her body, making her bones sturdier. Her originally weak telekinesis was also strengthened. When I returned to the bedroom from downstairs, I saw her trembling. I thought she had caught a cold. I hurriedly grabbed a blanket to cover her.
Yun Ruoxu was woken up.
Seeing my worried expression, she found it amusing. At the same time, she felt the warmth of fatherly love from her zombie dad. In her past life, she grew up in an orphanage, experiencing all the harshness and coldness of the world. This was the first time she had ever felt a father's love. Seeing that little Kichi was fine, I started figuring out how to deal with the zombie outside. Such a dangerous ticking time bomb had to be eliminated early. At dusk, I sent out Puppet No, one Mark Quant controlled by my mind, to provoke the tanker zombie. It was inside a shop, digesting the power of the crystal core. The puppet threw a flower pot at the tanker zombie, then turned and ran. The puppet threw a flower pot at the tanker zombie, then turned and ran. Success! I lured it to the shop where I had set up the gas cylinder beforehand. As soon as Puppet No, one ran into the store. The tanker zombie charged in fiercely. Its massive body crashed right inside, instantly smashing my puppet to pieces. At that moment, Puppet No, 2 entered the store, closed the door, and used a lighter to ignite the gas cylinder. The tanker zombie took the explosion head-on, letting out agonizing shrieks amidst the sea of flames. By the time it struggled its way out of the store, it collapsed right at the entrance. After the gas cylinder exploded, I pulled my consciousness back just in time from controlling the puppet. Seeing the giant zombie burn to a crisp and collapse at the door, I waited for over 10 minutes. Only after confirming the zombie was completely dead did I gather the courage to approach. Upon getting closer, I found the zombie burned beyond recognition. Its body had suffered massive destruction. I swung my machete, taking a lot of effort to break open the back of the zombie's neck. I discovered a white crystal core tinged with red. The allure this crystal core had on me was even stronger than the pure white one from before. Based on my observations, a pure white crystal core is formed when an evolving zombie devours other zombies. But this red-tinged crystal core is clearly of a higher tier, since zombies were gradually being drawn to the fire. I pocketed the crystal core and picked two zombies with intact limbs to use as new puppets. After returning to the apartment complex, I stationed the new puppets to guard the downstairs entrance. I went up to the 3rd floor. After confirming it was safe, I could no longer suppress the craving for the crystal core in my heart, and swallowed it down. As the crystal core tempered my body, my skin progressed even further toward a human appearance. Besides the improvement in my looks, my physical strength and agility were both slightly enhanced. After a brief wave of dizziness, my mind became incredibly clear. My senses grew sharper, and controlling zombies became much more effortless. I can now control 5 zombies at the same time. I also gained a new ability, vision sharing. Breaking my previous limit of only being able to control puppets within my line of sight, I can now control them remotely. Through testing, my maximum telekinetic range is 1 kilometer. Within this range, I don't need to show up in person to command the puppet's actions. This significantly boosts my chances of survival.
Yoon Ruoxu heard the explosion at the store
And the shrieks of the evolved zombie. She was on the 1st floor, so she wasn't worried about being exposed. But my delay in returning made her extremely anxious. She knew full well that in her infant state, facing an evolved zombie with powerful combat strength meant she had absolutely no chance of winning. She understood the danger of encountering this type of zombie. She could only pray to the heavens, hoping she wouldn't lose the zombie dad who had given her this fatherly love. She originally wanted to continue cultivating the glazed breathing technique, but she was too distracted and anxious to keep going. Right at that moment, the sound of the lock turning came from the door. Yun Ruoxu immediately breathed a sigh of relief, and a smile appeared on her face. After all, only this zombie dad could unlock the door. Only he could unlock it. Opening the door, I returned and saw Yoon Ruoxu's smiling face. My heart felt warm. I thought about how my improved strength could protect her better. Then I happily went into the kitchen to make her milk. Watching her drink the milk so adorably, I felt as if this rotting body was radiating with abundant vitality. Over the 2 days after my strength increased, I used my telekinesis to control the puppets, scavenging for supplies in the nearby area. I used the downstairs rooms as storage. Besides collecting baby necessities and food, I also found plenty of tools to deal with zombies. Even though these days basically repeated the same routine day after day, I still felt incredibly fulfilled inside. After all, I could clearly feel my strength constantly growing. As for Yoon Ruoxu, every day, aside from drinking milk, she focused on cultivating the glazed breathing technique. I occasionally hear faint noises coming from the living room. Thinking back to the anomaly from 2 days ago, I'm guessing he must have encountered superhuman zombies that have evolved special abilities. I know very well that evolved zombies have an intimidating presence and combat power far beyond ordinary zombies. Moreover, ordinary zombies in this post-mutation world are at the very bottom of the food chain. They have to face multi-layered threats from survivors, fellow zombies, and mutated vicious beasts. I'm moved that he, despite being in such adversity, hasn't given up on taking care of me. Thinking about the moral decay of humanity in the apocalypse, I feel even more that this zombie dad of mine is truly precious for retaining the light of humanity. After many days of cultivation, the intensity of my telekinesis has increased significantly. I can control silver needles to fly at extreme speeds, combined with my time control ability. I'm confident I can silently kill someone without a sound. With this control at my fingertips, I'm confident I can kill invisibly. But I'm not satisfied with just this. To survive in the apocalypse, I need to become even stronger. Meanwhile, when I sent the puppets to scavenge for supplies in the surrounding buildings, I discovered that the former owner of one apartment was probably a martial arts enthusiast. They left behind a lot of textbooks on combat techniques. They detailed various close-quarters combat moves. My physical attributes after evolving as a zombie are already stronger than an ordinary person's. Now that my body is no longer stiff, I can learn them much more easily and execute complex combat maneuvers. Even though a zombie's attack method is inherently primitive and brutal, humans, by unlocking the brain's potential, have summarized modern combat techniques that are more scientific and effective. Even though my evolutionary path is no longer physical melee combat,
I believe that
scientific combat skills can make up for the gap in physical attributes. I can also take advantage of the zombie trait of not fearing bites to use weapons in combat with maximum efficiency. After I mastered some key combat points and underwent training, I controlled the puppets to go to the 6th floor living room and released my telekinetic hold on them. They directly became my sparring partners. You have to know, once a zombie knows martial arts, no one can stop it. But after putting it into practice, I realized that relying purely on theoretical study and figuring things out on my own was fundamentally not enough to handle real combat situations. Only actual combat is the key to honing a sense of distance and the ability to judge and react to an opponent. After repetitive training, I made significant progress in my combat skills. Facing a frontal assault from ordinary zombies, I could easily handle it. From a complete novice in combat, I grew into a fighter with solid technique. Furthermore, I discovered I could multitask. While practicing combat hand-to-hand, I found I could do multiple things at once. I could practice fighting while simultaneously controlling the puppets to scavenge for supplies, using their shared vision to observe the surroundings. Right then, I noticed that on the 3rd floor of Building 1 in the Yangguan community, there were 2 zombies rummaging for supplies. Suddenly, a blood-red silhouette appeared. Its speed was absolutely terrifying. I even thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. I controlled a puppet to chase after that blood-red figure. Finally, a few minutes later, I got a clear look at the zombie. Its appearance was incredibly ferocious and terrifying. Not only was its skin peeling off, but its teeth and tongue had also become grotesquely deformed. Its arms and legs had mutated into the claws of a vicious beast. It had lost the ability to stand upright and could only crawl on all fours. But it possessed unparalleled speed and powerful leaping ability. It could easily run on walls and ceilings as if walking on flat ground. Facing this blood-red zombie, my puppets showed signs of fear, and this zombie was incredibly fast. In the blink of an eye, it killed 2 of the puppets I was controlling.
What?
What the hell kind of monster is this? After my vision returned to my main body, I still felt a lingering fear. After some time, the abilities some zombies evolved were beyond imagination. My current strength is nowhere near enough to fight it. Even if all 5 puppets rushed it at once, they'd probably be wiped out in an instant. Right now, I can only pin my hopes on the fact that this blood-red zombie won't find its way to Building 5 where I'm staying, not daring to waste any time. Every day I trained by fighting zombies. To improve my strength, a week later, in the 6th floor living room, facing the encirclement of 3 massive zombies, I could flexibly maneuver in the tight space and find the right moment to use unique techniques to quickly defeat those zombies. While practicing my combat skills, I had the puppets scavenge for supplies, while also searching for traces of evolved zombies. Monsters that are hard to deal with, like the blood-red zombie, shouldn't be recklessly provoked until I have enough strength. As for the types I've encountered before, like the giant zombie and the agile type zombie, they are relatively easier to handle. Through my explorations over the past few days, I discovered that type of crystal core mostly only forms in the brains of evolved zombies. At the same time, in the 1st floor bedroom, Yun Ruoksu, in her infant body, went from being exhausted after just moving a little at first, to now being able to make her baby body levitate an inch or 2. For humans, flying through the air is probably everyone's dream, even though Yun Ruoksu still can't achieve that right now. After this period of non-stop cultivation, she finally has a bit of self-defense capability in the apocalypse. Actually, she didn't know that. If the major survivor camps found out about this, they would probably flock over to recruit her, an infant capable of levitating her body. This achievement was truly astonishing. After finishing my combat training on the 6th floor, I controlled the puppets to dispose of the dismembered zombie corpses. Just as I was about to go upstairs to feed Chi-Chi her milk, the puppet in charge of gathering resources transmitted a new discovery. Not far away, a zombie with a scrawny build, but explosive speed, an agile type zombie, was chasing a sallow, emaciated survivor. This survivor, having run out of stockpiled food, was forced to go out and search for something to eat. Unfortunately, he ran into the evolved zombie I had been searching for all this time. The agile zombie was incredibly fast. It used its claws to pierce through a car door, executing a perfect drift, quickly catching up to and killing the survivor. Seeing this scene, I realized my chance had come. Ever since swallowing the crystal core and experiencing that explosive surge of energy, I wholeheartedly craved to become stronger. I immediately sent a puppet to tail it, keeping an eye on this agile-type zombie. I left 1 puppet to monitor its movements, and mobilized 4 more puppets armed with fire axes to rush over. After the 5 puppets regrouped, I had them pretend to be ordinary zombies, keeping a suitable distance, to form a semi-encirclement. They slowly approached the agile zombie, which was currently enjoying human flesh. The reason for this setup was taking into account the agile zombie's high speed. If the puppets acted recklessly, they could potentially be completely wiped out. When they were only 10 meters away from the agile zombie, I controlled the 5 puppets to suddenly charge. even though the agile zombie relied on its speed to dodge most of the attacks. Thanks to my semi-encirclement tactic, its right arm and back were still slashed and injured. However, one puppet got its axe stuck between the zombie's ribs and had its head furiously torn off by the agile zombie. I then controlled 2 puppets to launch a frontal feint attack, drawing its attention. The remaining 2 puppets seized the opportunity to resume their assault. Although the agile zombie managed to knock back the fainting puppets in front, it still couldn't dodge a slash to its waist. A large chunk of flesh was sliced off. The injured agile zombie burst with speed. It tore off the head of yet another puppet, but the remaining 3 puppets quickly rushed in. The agile zombie ultimately couldn't dodge the relentless barrage of axe strikes and was finally killed. After successfully taking down the agile zombie, I controlled the remaining puppets to dig out the crystal core. Then, the remaining puppets extracted the crystal core and quickly returned to the apartment complex. After arriving back at the building, I stationed the puppets to guard the entrance. I personally took the crystal core up to the 6th floor. I found that this crystal core was just like the one I had swallowed before. A white crystal core with streaks of red. It seems this agile zombie had also swallowed a crystal core before. I swallowed the crystal core. Once again, I felt surging energy sweep through my entire body. After the process ended, my strength had significantly increased. I could now control 10 zombies at once. My maximum control range even reached 3,000 meters. In the excitement of my growing strength, I went into the zombie horde and picked out 10 zombies with sturdy limbs. I equipped them with fire axes, forming a formidable zombie squad. Looking at this squad, brimming with confidence, I can already picture building a massive zombie army, relying on my powerful telekinesis and a horde of zombie puppets to conquer everything in my path. I've even mapped out a strategy to just overwhelm enemies with sheer numbers. But I can't forget that terrifying blood-red monster in Building 1. After clashing with that agile zombie recently, comparing the two only makes that monster seem even more horrifying. Even though I have 10 zombie puppets right now, I know way too little about that thing. There is no guarantee it'd win. I've decided to send the puppets to scout it out in a few days, to figure out its true strength. After all, that monster is like a ticking time bomb. It makes it hard for me to rest easy. Over the past 3 days, I converted the 6th floor into a training room. Through sparring with the zombies, I found that my physical attributes have been completely upgraded since my evolution. I nodded in satisfaction. This body of mine right now finally looks like someone who can actually survive the apocalypse. After finishing my training, I controlled the puppets to clean up the mess from the fight. After washing the blood off my body, I returned to the 1st floor to feed little Kichi. Looking at that little face of hers, heading back to the 7th floor to feed Chi-Chi. Seeing that innocent smile of hers, I couldn't help but smile back. This little one's appetite is getting better and better. After feeding her, I used some scavenged toys to amuse Kichi,
Yun Ruoksu looked at her zombie dad.
who was using such clumsy methods to coax her. She was utterly speechless for a moment, even though I look like an infant on the outside. Inside, I'm a mature, calm, and peerless Empress, decisive and ruthless. Still, this is my zombie dad's genuine affection, after all. I can only give him a smile, but to my surprise, after seeing her smile so cooperatively, he tried even harder to entertain me. Yun Ruoksu's eyelids couldn't help but twitch. Whatever. I'll just treat this as training for my telekinesis. After playing with Yun Ruoksu, I decided to scout out the strength of the blood-red monster in Building 1. From the horde of ordinary zombies, I picked out 10 tall, muscular zombie puppets. I armed them with fire axes. They looked incredibly intimidating, but I felt it still wasn't enough. Remembering that the e-bike shop at the corner of the street sold helmets, I led the puppets there and smashed the shop open. I equipped each puppet with a full-face motorcycle helmet. After all, a zombie's head is its fatal weakness. Even if their bodies are torn apart, as long as their heads aren't crushed, they can still swing an axe back at the enemy. Once everything was ready, I remotely controlled this newly outfitted puppet squad. The squad marched aggressively toward Building 1. Since my telekinetic range reaches up to 3,000 meters, and knowing full well I'd lose in close combat, I ultimately chose to stay back and command safely from Building 5. The puppet squad started from the 1st floor, carefully checking every room and blind spot, paying special attention to the ceilings to guard against a sneak attack from that climbing blood-red monster. The puppets quickly finished searching the first 4 floors, still on high alert for the blood-red monster's ambush. The puppets quickly finished searching the first 4 floors. Still no sign of that blood-red monster. But little did they know, the blood-red monster was clinging like a spider in a blind spot on the 5th floor. Waiting for the moment the puppets came upstairs, the monster launched a sudden attack. With just one strike, it sent the puppet closest to the door flying. Luckily, thanks to the helmet, the puppet was fine. I quickly command the puppet squad to counterattack. They swing their fire axes in a relentless assault. If Yun Ruoksu were here, she would definitely recognize the zombie in front of them immediately. It's a licker, an evolved zombie of the apocalypse. In Yun Ruoksu's memories of her past life, This type of zombie in the early stages of the apocalypse caused massive casualties among the survivors. Right now, the licker is enraged. Its claws move with blinding speed, swatting away several of my puppets. But under my control, the puppet squad, ignoring their own injuries, tightly grab onto its claws. Immediately after, the other puppets swing their axes straight down at its head. The licker falls into the puppet's encirclement. Even though it manages to jump away, it still gets slashed repeatedly. I try having a few puppets continuously hack at the exact same spot. Finally, under my command, 3 puppets join forces and chop off one of the licker's arms. The injured licker immediately leaps onto the ceiling. I command the puppets to throw their axes at it, but the licker's speed is simply too fast, and the low-level puppets I'm controlling have significantly reduced striking power and accuracy. The licker shatters a glass window and escapes onto the building's exterior wall. In the blink of an eye, it vanishes without a trace. I silently curse myself for underestimating its strength. Even with careful preparation, I still let it get away. This licker zombie is way too agile. It can walk on the exterior walls of a building as if walking on flat ground. This escape might make it cautious or even prompt it to return for revenge. I secretly feel lucky that I had the puppets wear helmets. That's how I managed to minimize the losses. But the most worrying thing right now is that blood red monster. If it ever secretly sneaks over to Building 5, I'm screwed. If it discovers the little one and climbs up from the outside wall, it would be absolutely impossible to defend against. I quickly gathered my composure and mapped out a defense plan. I assigned my 3 strongest zombie puppets, fully equipped, to patrol around Building 5. That way, even if the monster tries to sneak in, it'll be able to notice it in time. At the same time, I sent the other puppets out to hunt for more evolved zombies. Originally, swallowing those 2 crystal cores to boost my strength had me feeling incredibly hyped. But that blood red monster made me realize, right now, I'm still just a small fry. Meanwhile, Yun Ruoksu was in the 7th floor bedroom. She was controlling 2 cloth dolls, making them fly endlessly through the air. As a Grand Empress, I naturally have no interest in these childish toys, but so as not to let down this man's good intentions. Plus, I later discovered that using cloth dolls to practice my telekinesis is actually quite effective. Sensing that I had returned,
Yun Ruoksu immediately hugged the dolls to her chest.
I walked in and saw her playing so happily. My anxious mood was instantly healed. Little one, this world is far too dark and ruined. I hope when you grow up, you won't be disappointed by it. You have to stay just like you are now, growing up carefree and happy. I hope the 2 of us can survive in this apocalypse and keep living on. I looked at the bedroom window, and my expression instantly turned serious. Then I went out to grab some wooden planks and nails and started boarding up the windows.
Yun Ruoksu.
Started boarding up the windows.
Yun Ruoksu.
Looked at her zombie dad in confusion. She just stared at her zombie father, wondering what he was doing. He hasn't gone out much these past few days, and now has boarding up the windows. Could it be that this zombie dad has sensed the growing strength of the evolved zombies, and is so terrified that he wants to hide from the chaos outside? Thinking it over, this is the only logical explanation. It seems my zombie dad is quite the coward, but she overlooked one possibility, and that was, I was doing all of this entirely to protect her. Moreover, after the blood moon appeared, quite a few evolved humans had also emerged. At first, they would panic and run from ordinary zombies, but in the later stages, even ordinary people could easily hunt down these low-level zombies. Right now, I was still busy hammering nails. After a long while, I finally finished fortifying the windows. When boarding them up, I made sure to leave gaps for light and ventilation, ensuring defense, without forcing little Kichi to live in a stuffy environment. It would also buy me more reaction time if that blood red monster ever showed up. 3 days later, even though the blood red monster hadn't shown itself, I still had my puppets patrolling around Building 5. I didn't dare let my guard down for a single second. Suddenly, I felt a mental wave transmit into my mind. One of the zombie puppets, while scavenging for supplies at a grocery store 2 streets away, had run into a few survivors. The survivors initially thought it was just an ordinary zombie, but when the puppet turned its head to check them out, they were absolutely terrified. Among them was a burly man named Tai Zhu. He charged at the puppet with an iron rod. I controlled the puppet to block with its fire axe. The moment they clashed, I was shocked. The puppets I selected were all quite heavily built. Plus, zombies inherently possess immense strength. The puppets I selected were all quite heavily built, and a zombie's strength is naturally greater than a normal human's. Yet, I never expected this man's strength to be so overwhelming. The ferocious force transmitted through the iron rod completely numbed the puppet's arm. Tiju possessed terrifying strength. He knocked the axe right out of the puppet's hand, then followed up with another strike, smashing its head to pieces. Taiju walked up to the fallen puppet's corpse. looking a bit puzzled. This world is getting absolutely ridiculous. Even zombies know how to use weapons now. Could this be some new type of evolved zombie? But he didn't dwell on it for long. He immediately yelled at his crew to hurry up and move the supplies, afraid they might attract more evolved zombies. Seeing Taizu kill the zombie with a single strike, his companions kept looting supplies while showering him with endless flattery. "Thank God you're here, Boss Taizu. Otherwise, there's no way we'd have found this much food."
Yeah.
What's an evolved zombie anyway? With Boss Taizu's godlike strength, it only takes one swing to put him down. After all, to secure a strong backer in the apocalypse, people had to swallow their pride and kiss ass. The man named Taizu, after hearing his crew's praises, looked incredibly smug. I was quite surprised that, over a month into the apocalypse, I could still run into survivors. Especially that guy Taizu, with his formidable strength, who had just fought my puppet. I guessed he might be an evolved human. An ordinary person couldn't possibly have that kind of raw power. Considering the intelligence and complex schemes of humans, I was worried that these supplies would make me a target for the survivors, putting me and little Kichi in danger, so I decided to stop sending puppets to that area. After that accidental encounter with the survivor group, a few more days quickly passed by. I had now stopped gathering supplies, because when it came to scavenging, the efficiency of these puppets was simply too high. Every room in Building 5 was already packed to the brim with all sorts of supplies. Meanwhile, Yun Ruoksu had spent this time constantly using her telekinesis to practice crawling on the bed in the bedroom. As her control over her body improved, Yun Ruoksu's crawling speed on the bed got faster and faster. Finally, with the help of her telekinesis, she learned how to walk. Right at that moment, I pushed the door open and walked in. Seeing the scene on the bed, my jaw practically dropped to the floor. This little one is only a few months old. How can she already stand up and walk? At first, I was utterly shocked, but then I was overwhelmed with joy. Even though I had planned to let Yun Ruokshu adapt to the apocalyptic life early on, I never expected her to start walking at such a young age. I carried Yun Ruokshu out to the living room. The flat floor would be much easier for her to practice on. Thanks to her telekinesis, Yun Ruokshu adapted very quickly. However, due to her limited physical stamina, and having to expend telekinesis to keep her balance, she had to stop after practicing for a little while. Thinking she was tired, I picked her up and placed her on the sofa to rest. After that, I grabbed my steel broadsword and went to the balcony to practice my blade techniques. After swallowing the crystal core, my body had fully evolved, now swinging the steel blade through the air. It let out powerful whistling swooshes. My current training was purely based on my past lives, vague memories of martial arts movies, just mimicking simple moves to swing the blade. But I always believed that as long as I was strong enough, even a brick would be enough to critically injure someone. Seeing this, Yun Ruoksu was completely astonished. Hez actually trying to improve his strength too. I originally thought he was just an ordinary zombie, but because he retained human consciousness, he knew how to use weapons, giving him an edge over the regular zombies. Thanks to his human consciousness, he knows how to use weapons, gaining an advantage among the low-level zombies. However, in my past life as the human Empress, I, Yun Ruoksu, had vast experience in combat and martial arts. The blade technique Hez practicing is honestly atrocious. If he runs into an opponent with even a bit of martial prowess, they could probably finish off my zombie dad in the blink of an eye. Meanwhile, seeing Yun Ruoksu watching me, I thought she was captivated by my blade skills. I felt incredibly smug. I started swinging the blade with even more enthusiasm. Over the next few days, I let little Kichi roam freely in the 6th-floor living room. Since I frequently trained on the 6th floor, this place was much more spacious and well-lit, way better than the 7th-floor bedroom with its boarded-up windows. I practiced my blade and martial arts on the balcony, while Yun Ruoksu practiced walking in the living room. At the same time, she secretly honed her telekinetic control, with me keeping her company. The little one's walking grew steadier by the day. She really is a prodigy. But the sense of crisis in Yun Ruoksu's heart only grew stronger. After the Blood Moon mutation, both zombies and ferocious beasts are evolving like crazy. An ordinary zombie, like my dad, will sooner or later run out of room to survive. I need to grow up faster. At the very least, I can't be a burden in this apocalypse. Just as we were both busy improving ourselves, a furious roar suddenly echoed from outside the building. My heart skipped a beat. I immediately switched to my puppet's point of view. On the lawn of the apartment complex, two zombies that had mutated after the Blood Moon were engaged in a fierce battle. One was a tanker-type zombie, nearly 2.5 meters tall. Its fists swung with the ferocity of a tiger, each punch leaving deep craters in the ground. The other was the licker I had encountered before. Crouched on all fours, its movements were incredibly agile. Its punches left deep craters. The other was the licker I had encountered before. Crouched on all fours, its movements were incredibly agile. Its claws were as sharp as curved blades. The two powerful evolved zombies fought to a standstill. My blood was pumping. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Two evolved zombies showing up at the same time and wearing each other down. I just need to wait for them to mutually destroy each other. I can sit back, watch the tigers fight, and reap the rewards. I bolted straight out the door, heading downstairs to assemble my puppet squad. Hearing the commotion outside, Yun Ruoxu was utterly speechless, not knowing he had the ability to control puppets. She thought he was going out to risk his life against the evolved zombies. But right now, my movements are still unsteady. I can only stay in the room and silently pray for him. Meanwhile, as I headed downstairs, I had already started mobilizing all my puppets. 10 of them, armed to the teeth, quietly closed in on the lawn. After a long, brutal fight, the two zombies finally destroyed each other. The blood-red monster had ripped off one of the tanker zombie's arms. Ultimately, the tanker zombie collapsed and died on the spot. The blood-red monster claimed a Pyrrhic victory. Just as it was about to take the crystal core, my puppet squad suddenly charged out and surrounded it. The blood-red monster roared, trying to scare off the puppets. But the puppets under my control weren't affected by its intimidation at all. The 10 puppets swung their fire axes in a frenzied frenzy. The open terrain stripped it of its wall climbing advantage. In its moment of hesitation, it was tightly surrounded. The crystal cores of both evolved zombies fell into my hands. I was overjoyed. I controlled the puppets to quickly head back to the apartment complex. These two crystal cores had mostly turned a deep crimson red. It was obvious they had devoured quite a few of their own kind. Returning to the 3rd floor, I couldn't contain my curiosity and immediately swallowed both crystal cores at once. This time, the burst of energy far exceeded anything before. But the most crucial change was my consciousness. A terrifying mental power flooded into my brain, directly surpassing my limit of endurance. Unable to hold on for long, I blacked out. Up on the 7th floor, Yun Ruoxu was anxiously rolling around on the sofa. It's been so long and there's still no sign of him. She had completely lost hope. She thought I had died at the hands of the evolved zombies. What a pitiful zombie. Dad, why couldn't you wait for me just a little longer? Just as she was grieving, the door lock clicked. Yun Ruoxu suddenly looked up. A smile instantly lit up her face. She jumped off the sofa and stumbled toward me. Dad. I stood there, stunned as if struck by lightning. Little Kichi knows how to call me Dad. I've lived 2 lives, and I've never even had a girlfriend. This magical feeling of suddenly becoming a father made me so emotional I didn't know what to do. Yun Ruoxu herself was also stunned because she was so excited. Her inner thoughts had slipped out uncontrollably, but she quickly relaxed. After all, I have the soul of my past life. Speaking was never an issue. It's just that after being reborn, I hadn't practiced my pronunciation yet. As for me, I didn't overthink it at all. I just felt that little Kichi was an absolute prodigy, self-taught and brilliant. To think she already knows how to talk. I let out 2 excited low growls to express my joy. Too bad I can't speak human language. After this evolution was complete, the number of corpse puppets I could control increased to 3. My telepathic range expanded to an astonishing 8 kilometers. With this kind of power, I immediately set out to expand my forces. As for Yun Ruoxu, after eating her fill, she didn't want to drink formula anymore. She opened her mouth, revealing 2 rows of tiny baby teeth, letting me know she was done with milk. Looking at her tiny baby teeth, I understood she didn't want milk anymore. For a moment, I felt a bit ashamed. I wasn't even as sensible as little Kichi. So I ran down to the 6th floor, started a fire, and cooked some porridge, adding formula and mashing it into a smooth paste. The little one took the spoon and fed herself, even complaining about my clumsiness. Dad, it's better if I do it myself. Watching her eat so happily, I couldn't help but sigh in relief. Little Kichi was finally growing up. After my power leveled up, a bold idea flashed through my mind. Could I control evolved zombies? The opportunity came quickly. A few thousand meters away, I spotted a lone tanker-type evolved zombie. I brought my corpse puppets, pretending to be normal zombies, and slowly approached it. At a distance of 100 meters, I unleashed my telekinesis. The mental defense of an evolved zombie was indeed stronger than a normal one's. I met obvious resistance, but my evolved telekinesis was even stronger. I quickly broke through its defenses and successfully turned it into my corpse puppet. I named it Big Smasher. This guy had an incredibly massive build. Its arms were like iron cages. From a hardware store, I found 2 massive iron hammers weighing over 100 pounds. I equipped it with them. When it swung them, it looked absolutely majestic, standing guard at the apartment complex gate. It was literally a gate god. With Big Smasher standing guard, my sense of security skyrocketed. Later, I subdued another one.
An agility-type evolved zombie?
I named it Lightning. It was incredibly fast and specialized in dual blades, perfectly making up for Big Smasher's lack of speed. One for attack, one for defense. along with over 20 normal corpse puppets. I felt like I could walk sideways in this apocalyptic world. Meanwhile, while Big Smasher was out scavenging for supplies, it ran into a massive mutated dog. It was nearly 2 meters long, with fur that was pitch black and stiff. While scavenging for supplies, it ran into a massive mutated dog. It was nearly 2 meters long, with fur that was pitch black and stiff. Its body was as robust as a wild boar's. This was the first time I had seen another mutated creature in the apocalypse. I controlled Big Smasher to engage it in battle. Big Smasher swung its hammer, shattering the giant dog's front legs, then followed up with another strike that smashed its head to pieces. I extracted a white crystal core from the giant dog's brain. Sure enough, mutated beasts had crystal cores too. I dragged the giant dog's corpse back to the apartment complex and ate some of the meat to satisfy my hunger. I saved the rest for Big Smasher. The fresh meat caused the wounds on Big Smasher's body to heal at a visible rate. After devouring the mutated dog and the crystal core of a tanker-type zombie, I had just encountered my mental power increased once again. But Yun Ruoxu was completely unaware of all this. Taking advantage of my absence, Chiki went up and down the stairs to investigate. She discovered that the entire building, from the 3rd to the 6th floor, was packed with all kinds of supplies, mountains of baby formula, bottled water stacked up to the ceiling, and countless baby products and food. My God, just how much stuff has my zombie dad hoarded? She was astonished, which only reinforced her judgment. A normal zombie alone could never transport this many supplies. She guessed it was due to an earth-burrowing ability, using underground burrowing to transport things quickly. When she went to the 1st floor balcony and saw Big Smasher guarding the gate with its twin hammers, she became even more certain. Dad definitely has to rely on his burrowing ability to get in and out. In reality, Big Smasher was just a corpse puppet I controlled. But Yun Ruoxu had no idea. She secretly made up her mind. Once she was strong enough, she would take out this big guy first, to clear the obstacles for her dad. She even found the property deed. Knowing her location from the deed, she realized she was in Shanghai City, and quickly searched through her past life's memories. Shanghai City had 2 famous powerhouses. One was a policewoman with the ability to resurrect 9 times, the 9 Lives Demon Cop. The other was a mutated white bear wielding the power of lightning, the thunderous roar. If she could take advantage of the time before the 9 Lives Demon Spirit fully matured to subdue her, she would be a massive help in the future. Not long after, a military helicopter flew over the city, dropping leaflets. The Shanghai City military had established a survivor base outside the city. I read it and casually tossed it aside. I'm a zombie. What do I care about a human base? It has nothing to do with me. Yun Ruoxu, however, sneered and crushed the leaflet in her hand. In my past life, I lived in a survivor base. It was full of darkness and injustice. Instead of staying with those scheming, backstabbing humans, I'd rather stay by my zombie dad's side while I was constantly growing my strength. Policewoman Su Mu-chin from the nearby station brought a few colleagues to the Sunshine apartment complex to look for a truck. She wanted to drive a truck to transport survivors and flee the city. But right at the complex gate, she ran into Big Smasher. Su Mu-chin picked up a rock and threw it at Big Smasher, trying to lure it away. Seeing no reaction, she pulled out her pistol and fired a shot. The moment I saw her draw her gun and aim at Big Smasher, I was furious. I didn't care what her goal was. Daring to shoot my corpse puppet meant she was asking for death. I controlled Big Smasher to raise its hammer and block the bullet. Immediately after, it swung its massive hammer straight at Su Mu-chin. She didn't expect a zombie to know how to attack with a hammer. Unable to dodge in time, she was struck by the hammer and died on the spot. The officers who entered the complex were also wiped out by my corpse puppets. I looted a few things from their bodies. The police officers were completely wiped out by my corpse puppets. I confiscated a few police firearms and some ammo from them. However, late that night, something bizarre happened.
Su Mu-chin's corpse
Actually resurrected in a blaze of red light. Her body, which had been smashed to a pulp with broken bones, was now completely intact. Her strength had even doubled. I saw this through Big Smasher's perspective and was completely dumbfounded.
What the hell?
This policewoman actually came back from the dead. Su Mu-chin herself was also bewildered. She checked her body and found not a single scratch on her. Her strength and speed had skyrocketed. She realized she was probably an evolver, possessing the ability to resurrect after death. The next day, Su Mu-chin brought people over again, and this time, she brought even more fully armed officers. I was boiling with rage. I let this woman off the hook last time, but she actually had a death wish and came back to cause trouble. This time, I controlled 3 evolved zombies to surround her, but after her resurrection, Su Mu-chin's power had exploded. She was actually able to hold her own while surrounded by 3 zombies. I ordered my shooter corpse puppet to open fire, but she managed to dodge most of the bullets. Eventually, I still found an opening to kill her again. This time, I smashed her to a bloody pulp, making absolutely sure she was dead. But that same night, she resurrected again, and her strength doubled yet again.
No way is this woman using hacks.
I was completely speechless. She can resurrect after dying, and even get stronger. What gave me an even bigger headache was that there was a hidden evolver secretly assisting Su Muchin. Every time my attack was about to hit her, it would be halted for a second by a strange force. It could even bend the trajectory of bullets in midair, and this evolver hiding in the shadows was actually Yun Ruoksu. Earlier, she had observed that there seemed to be a zombie king in the apartment complex, secretly controlling all the zombies. Using a secret telepathic voice transmission technique, she connected with Su Muchin, disguising herself as a mysterious expert called the Hidden One. They planned to slay the zombie king together. Su Muchin thought she had met a like-minded comrade and happily agreed to cooperate. That night, Su Muchin lured Big Smasher away from the gate and successfully charged into the complex. But I intercepted her right in front of Building 5 to protect little Kichi on the first floor. I pulled all my corpse puppets back to surround Building 5. Gripping my machete, I attacked with fury. Every move and strike was extremely ruthless, completely devoid of my usual gentleness. Yun Ruokshu observed from the shadows on the second floor of Building 1. Using her time control ability, she repeatedly blocked my fatal attacks. But she limited herself to protecting Su Muchin from being killed. She absolutely wouldn't let Su Muchin hurt me. Su Muchin was completely confused. Whose side was this Hidden One actually on? I'm attacking this zombie, and it's all for Yun Ruoksu. She only transmitted one sentence. This zombie, you're not allowed to touch it. The battle grew increasingly fierce. Su Muchin desperately tried to force her way into Building 5, but I completely blocked her path. I let out mournful, furious roars. The rage of risking my life to protect my most beloved person caused the temperature in the entire complex to drop. At this moment, Yun Ruoksu finally discovered the truth. When Su Muchin charged toward Building 5, all the zombies in the complex frantically swarmed toward Building 5. What they were protecting wasn't some zombie king. It was the person on the first floor, and the one ordering all the zombies to guard it with their lives was her zombie dad. Could it be? Dad is the zombie king. All the clues connected at this very moment. The one she wanted to kill was her own zombie dad. Could it be? Dad is the zombie king. All the clues connected at this very moment. Her zombie dad was the zombie king she had been hunting all along. I'm such an idiot. Yun Ruoksu had almost taken her own dad's crystal core to feed to her dad. Once she figured it out, she immediately stopped assisting Su Muchin. Losing her hidden support, Su Muchin instantly fell to a disadvantage. I controlled the 3 evolved zombies, combining them with my own main body to surround her, treating her like a punching bag and beating her to a pulp. Hidden One, you really screwed me over. That was Su Muchin's last thought before being knocked unconscious. After knocking her out, I wrote a note and tossed it to her.
Live well.
If you die, everyone at the police station will be buried with you. Su Muchin, overflowing with her saintly heart, compromised as expected. She couldn't bear to let others lose their lives because of her. The following days gradually became peaceful. Every day, I sparred with lightning to improve my combat skills. I even specifically found a learning tablet for little Kichi, along with some flashcards. The little one's growth rate was astonishingly fast. She could already read, write, and do math. I just felt that my daughter had the demeanor of a great genius. Yun Ruoksu pretended to learn from the tablet, babbling along with it, but inwardly, she felt incredibly helpless. In my past life, I was admitted as a grad student at a top university. Yet now, I have to relearn infant education. At the same time, every day while I was out, she would go up and down the stairs to chat with Su Muchin. The 2 women, one big and one small, got along quite well. Su Muchin, facing this innocent and adorable little girl, had absolutely no guard up. She spilled all her information. As for Yun Ruoksu, she was secretly calculating how to subdue this 9 lives demon tribulation. After all, the other party was someone with the potential to break through to the Earth rank in the future. If she could pull her to her side, she would be an incredibly capable assistant. I noticed that little Kichi liked chatting with Su Muchin, so I didn't object. Anyway, having a human who could communicate normally with the little one was a good thing. It's just that little Kichi liked chatting with Su Muchin, so I didn't object. Anyway, having a human who could communicate normally with the little one was a good thing. It's just that every time I made sure to lock Su Muchin's chains tightly and arranged for Lightning Number 1 to guard her strictly. Suddenly one day, a corpse puppet transmitted new information. On a street far away, a never-before-seen Tier 2 tyrant zombie appeared. Both of its arms had completely mutated into sharp claws. Its strength and speed were terrifying to the extreme. An awakened from the human faction was being chased by it, running for his life. That person was the muscular man who had fought my corpse puppet before. Tizu. The wounds on the tyrant zombie could actually heal automatically. Taizu's slashes were completely useless. Finally, Taizu had to squeeze into a narrow alley to barely escape with his life. My heart stirred. This tyrant was too strong. I wouldn't be a match for it in a head-on fight. But I had a better idea. I controlled lightning to lure the tyrant near the police station. Su Muchin happened to be out scavenging for supplies when she returned and saw this tyrant. Without a word, she drew its attention to protect the people in the station. When the sandpiper and the clam fight, the fisherman catches them both. After a fierce battle with the tyrant, Su Muchin realized she couldn't beat it, so she lured it to a gas station and shot the fuel tank, causing an explosion. The gas station instantly erupted into a raging inferno. The tyrant struggled out of the sea of fire, its entire body charred black. Yet it still wasn't dead. However, its injuries were extremely severe. I immediately controlled Big Smasher and Lightning to charge forward. The heavily injured tyrant simply couldn't withstand Big Smasher's frantic swings with a steel rod weighing over a ton. Very quickly, it was beaten to the point where it couldn't even stand up. Lightning took the opportunity to continuously slash it with steel blades. Finally, the tyrant was destroyed. After obtaining the Tier 2 crystal core, I was overjoyed. But this time, I didn't rush to absorb it immediately. Instead, I first cooked a meal for little Kichi, arranged the defenses properly, and then went to Building 4 to swallow the crystal core. The abundant energy directly helped me cook a meal for little Kichi, arranged the defenses properly, and then went to Building 4. To swallow the crystal core, the abundant energy directly helped me successfully break through to Tier 3. My physical attributes took a qualitative leap, and my mental power even skyrocketed several times over. My control range expanded from 10,000 meters to dozens of kilometers. The number of normal corpse puppets I could control reached over 100. I could even easily control Tier 2 evolved zombies. I could even overpower agility-type zombies like Lightning and Speed, and directly knock back tanker-type zombies like Big Smasher. The current me finally felt like a true survivor in the apocalypse. Not long after breaking through to Tier 3, I subdued another one. A Tier 2 tanker zombie with a massive body the size of a small car. I named it Big Smasher number 2. I equipped it with a long metal rod weighing over a ton. When Big Smasher number 2 swung its rod, it could smash a car into scrap metal. Throwing it could even pierce through concrete walls.
With Big Smasher number 2 standing guard,
Not even evolved zombies dared to approach the complex gate. At the same time, Yun Ruoxu was also secretly breaking through. She had reached Tier 3. After her breakthrough, her telekinesis was significantly enhanced. She could control iron nails to fly at extreme speeds. Combined with her time control energy, it was enough to silently take someone's life. Looking across this entire apocalypse, she was already a top-tier powerhouse among humanity. I didn't know when, but a Blood Fiend Saber technique manual appeared at my feet. I thought it was a secret manual left behind by some mysterious expert, so I started practicing it. Little did I know, it was actually written by Yun Ruoxu in an exercise book and tossed to me. This saber technique used blood as a catalyst to condense killing intent. Once mastered, it didn't require physical strength. One's own bloodlust aura would become the strongest blade in the world. I made rapid progress after practicing it, and my combat power saw a qualitative leap. However, the peace was quickly broken. An evolver squad of 5 people traveled from the survivor base to Shanghai City to gather supplies. They discovered that the supplies around the Sunshine apartment complex had all been cleared out. Traveled from the survivor base to Shanghai City to gather supplies. They discovered that the supplies around the Sunshine apartment complex had all been cleared out. They followed the tracks of the corpse puppets transporting supplies and found the complex. That night, they scaled the wall and broke in. But little did they know, the moment they landed from the wall, I had already spotted them. My zombie puppet army quickly surrounded these evolved humans. Lightning, no. 2 instantly slashed one of them to death. Lightning, no. 2 instantly slashed one of them to death. Da Foss, twin hammers, forced the 2 close combat evolved humans to retreat. In the midst of the chaotic battle, I made my move. With a horizontal slash from my newly cultivated bloodlust saber technique, I directly cleaved the last fleeing evolved human, right in half, from their bodies. I looted ID badges from a survivor base. I realized that human factions were developing much faster than I thought. The Sunshine Apartments would be exposed sooner or later. I decided to move. The destination, King Shui Farm on the outskirts of the city. It has vast land for farming, and it's far away from human factions. There is also a sufficient number of zombies around to replenish my troops. Most importantly, it can provide Xiao Qiqi with a much better environment to grow up in. Xiao Qiqi can't live in this cramped, reinforced concrete building forever. She needs sunlight, fresh air, and fresh green vegetables. Speaking of vegetables, I feel bad for the little kid. Her diet has been way too monotonous for a long time. Every day, it's just formula, egg-fried rice, and mashed porridge. Not a single leaf of greens. Once we get to the farm, I can control the zombie puppets to clear the land and plant crops, so Xiao Qiqi can eat fresh fruits and veggies. Before leaving, there's one more thing to take care of, and that is Su Muqing. Her resurrection ability is way too troublesome. I can't kill her, but I can't just let her go either. But since I've decided to leave this place, I might as well just set her free. We'll never cross paths again. I told Xiao Qiqi about my decision. She obediently nodded and asked the older sister if she was willing to come with us. I knew very well in my heart, with Su Muking's personality, she wouldn't be able to let go. Of the survivors in the scenic area, there was no way she'd come with us. While I wasn't paying attention, Yun Ruoxiu secretly slipped a piece of paper into Su Muking's hand.
King Shui Farm.
Before Su Muqing left, she asked Yun Ruoxiu, "Do you still remember our promise?" Yun Ruoxiu smiled and replied, If one day you realize this world isn't as beautiful as you imagined, when you no longer want to protect others, remember to come protect me." After Su Muqing limped back to the police station, she discovered a scene that completely broke her. The survivors she had risked her life to protect had degenerated into man-eating monsters. They killed all the police officers who refused to collude with them. They even killed Su Muqing. Su Muqing resurrected for the third time. Her strength exploded once again. She personally executed all the cannibals, not leaving a single one alive. The last young man groveled on the ground, begging, "Officer Su, you're a good person. I just wanted to survive. I didn't mean to." Su Muqing turned around to leave, but the sound of a pistol being cocked echoed behind her. She dashed over in a flash, shattering his ribs with a single punch.
Why?
Why did you lie to me?
Looking at the corpses littering the ground, Su Muking's heart turned as cold as ash. She recalled Yun Ruoxiu's words, "If those people were never worth protecting in the first place." That's right. Are these despicable animals really worth my protection? Looking at the piece of paper in her hand that read King Shui Farm, Su Muqing took one last glance. Eat the police station where she had once planned to dedicate her entire life, then turned and vanished into the night. "Xiao Qiqi, Daddy is coming for you." On the day of departure, 5 heavy-duty trucks marched out majestically from the Sunshine Apartments. Sitting in the driver's seats were all zombies. Behind the drivers were hundreds of heavy-duty trucks marched out majestically from the Sunshine Apartments. Sitting in the driver's seats were all zombies. Behind the drivers were hundreds of fully armed zombie puppets. The sight of zombies driving trucks made the survivors along the way drop their jaws in shock. An evolved human scavenging for supplies in a store watched with his own eyes as 5 heavy-duty trucks sped by. The driver's seats were filled with ferocious zombie faces. Am I hallucinating? Even zombies know how to drive trucks now. Along the way, evolved zombies were constantly attracted by the commotion of the convoy. I didn't reject a single one. I used my telekinesis to control and recruit them all, ensuring that my army's numbers didn't decrease, but instead kept growing stronger. As we passed near the Shanghai City Zoo, a level 2 mutated giant python, entirely golden in color, was sprawled across the main road, completely blocking our path. Its body was over 20 meters long, its scales shimmering with a golden glow. 2 scout zombie puppets were swallowed whole in a single gulp. I controlled Air Foe to charge forward with his steel staff, taking the lead. One strike to the python's head left it dizzy and disoriented. Dae Foe and the other tanker zombies blocked both sides, preventing the giant python from slithering away. The agility-type zombies swarmed in, using their steel blades on the python's body to continuously slash and hack. At the critical moment, the tyrant zombie leaped down from a high-rise building, its razor-sharp claws plunging straight into a vital spot, tearing open a massive wound. Foe followed up with a staff strike that smashed the python's head to pieces. After extracting the level 2 crystal core, I decided to leave it for Foe. Devouring crystal cores below level 3 was no longer of any use to me, but it could make my zombie puppets stronger. Troops are valued for their elite quality, not just their numbers. I wanted to create an elite army composed entirely of high-level evolved zombies. Yun Ruoxiu looked at the python's massive corpse, her eyes shining so brightly they practically shot sparks. "Daddy, I want to eat snake meat." The little kid was sick to her stomach from eating formula and egg-fried rice every day. Seeing such a huge python, she really wanted to eat snake meat. The little kid was sick to her stomach from eating formula and egg-fried rice every day. Seeing such a huge python, she really couldn't take another step. But I wasn't sure if humans could eat the meat of mutated beasts. I had to keep it in mind for now. I'd find a survivor later to use as a guinea pig. Wait until Daddy confirms it's safe, then I'll cook it for you. Although Yun Ruoxiu was a bit disappointed, she understood her dad's caution. In my heart, I knew very well that mutated beast meat wasn't just edible. It was highly nutritious, but there was no way to explain that. The convoy continued moving forward. The high-rise buildings on both sides gradually disappeared, replaced by the desolate yet expansive outskirts. I looked at the map. We'd reach King Shui Farm in just over 10 minutes. The evening sunset dyed the sky a blood-red hue. I watched the scenery constantly receding outside the window, then looked to my side. Xiao Qiqi was leaning against the window, quietly gazing outside. Her eyes reflected the setting sun. Ever since her rebirth, this was her first time leaving the Sunshine Apartments. To see the outside world, I reached out and gently pinched her little cheeks. Xiao Qiqi looked up and gave me a sweet smile. "Daddy, the outside world is so big." That's right. The outside world is very big, but it's also very dangerous. But no matter what this world turned into, as long as Zhao Qiqi was by my side, everything had meaning. In the distant horizon, the silhouette of a massive farm faintly appeared in the sunset. That was our new home, Kingshui Farm. And behind us, amidst the ruins of Jianghai City, dozens of kilometers away, a figure radiating a terrifying aura was sprinting along the tire tracks in hot pursuit. Su Muking's gentle and kind gaze had vanished without a trace, replaced by coldness and determination. But when she remembered the little girl holding a baby bottle, smiling at her that day, the corners of her mouth still curled up unconsciously. After arriving at Kingshui Farm, when I remembered the little girl holding a baby bottle smiling at me, the corners of my mouth still curled up unconsciously. After arriving at Kingshui Farm, I followed the map's directions, drove along a small path through the woods for a bit, and finally saw the farm's entrance sign. On both sides of the large steel gates were fences made of wooden posts and barbed wire. High-voltage warning signs hung on the fence, and the barbed wire showed signs of brutal destruction. Sitting in the truck, I evaluated the farm with satisfaction. Kingshui Farm had a quiet surrounding, making it hard for others to notice. Its area was much larger than the Sunshine Apartments, enough to accommodate me, Chi-Chi, and my massive zombie puppet army. Most importantly, this place wasn't suffocating at all, making it perfect for the little kid to grow up in. "Daddy, are we there yet?" Yun Ruoxu stretched her arms. I nodded and first dispatched a squad of zombie puppets to enter the farm through the pried open fence to investigate. As soon as the zombie puppets went inside, I furrowed my brows. The farm was covered in dried, dark brown bloodstains. I focused my search on the vegetable garden, only to find that the farm's vegetable fields were completely ruined. There were also massive footprints on the ground. It seemed there were mutated animals living on the farm. Just then, the sounds of crashing and beastly roars echoed from within the farm. I controlled the zombie puppets to follow the noise deeper inside. In the poultry farming area, we discovered a giant mutated cow. The most absurd part was that this yellow cow had grown a pair of fangs even more exaggerated than a lion's or tiger's, and was devouring the carcass of an unknown animal. The apocalypse is here, and even cows have turned carnivorous. Once the giant cow spotted the zombie puppets, it charged straight at them without hesitation. This beast had already reached level 2. Ordinary zombie puppets were absolutely no match for it. I controlled Dea-Fo and Tyrant No. 1 to engage it in battle. Dea-Fo smashed his staff into the giant cow's head, leaving it dizzy and seeing stars. Tyrant No. 1 seized the chance to tear open a massive wound with its sharp claws, but the thick hide on this cow's body allowed it to narrowly escape death. Tyrant No. 1 seized the chance to tear open a massive wound with its sharp claws, but this cow's hide had evolved to be incredibly tough. Luckily, it didn't know how to dodge. After a few rounds, it finally collapsed. The tyrant's claws pierced through its skull, extracting a level 2 orange-yellow crystal core that was on the verge of mutating. After dealing with the giant cow, I continued the search. By the fish pond in the west, I found a very wide crawl trail on the bank. When I controlled a zombie puppet to approach the water's surface, a massive turtle suddenly lunged out of the water, snapping off the zombie puppet's ankle in a split second. What a huge turtle! Its shell was incredibly hard. A zombie puppet punched it, and the recoil instantly shattered its wrist. I had no intention of killing it for now. I dispatched 2 guards to watch the bank, just to keep it from coming ashore. This 1,000-year, 10,000-year-old turtle. Once I verify that mutated animal meat is edible, I'll save it to nourish Kichi's body. After turning the farm inside out twice and confirming it was safe, I began a massive cleanup. Once the residential area was spotless, I finally took Kichi by the hand and walked into the farm. "Is this going to be our home from now on, Daddy? It actually looks really nice." Yun Ruoxu curiously looked around, her eyes filled with anticipation. After moving in, my top priority was safety. Dea-Fo guarded the south gate with his massive staff. Lightning Nose 1, 2, and 3 each led a squad of zombie puppets to guard the other 3 sides. Dea-Fo and Tyrant No. Mark Oil 1 protected Qiqi at close range. The entire farm had been transformed into an impenetrable iron fortress. Looking at Qiqi sleeping soundly, a surge of accomplishment welled up in my heart. Sleep tight, Zhao Qiqi. Kingshui Farm will be our new home from now on. The next morning, when Qiqi woke up, I had already prepared breakfast. There was even a plate of fresh fruit on the table. The orchard in the northern part of the farm still had quite a bit of fruit hanging on the branches. Kiki's eyes lit up. She smelled the fruity aroma and looked a bit mesmerized. After eating her fill, she went outside and saw squads of fully armed zombies patrolling the farm in an orderly manner. My dad is so amazing. His method of controlling these zombies is far superior to an ordinary zombie king. She hugged my leg, acting cute and begging to go for a walk. I had to give in. I led her over to the vegetable fields. Qiqi was amazed to see the zombies I controlled hoeing the soil. She was incredibly surprised. In my past life, I came from the countryside and used to farm with my grandparents, so I had quite a bit of farming experience. I was confident I could reclaim these ruined vegetable fields. At the same time, I took the 2 level 2 mutated beast crystal cores I had obtained earlier and fed them to Da-Fo. Da-Fo successfully evolved to level 3. His body swelled up like a balloon, growing as large as a truck. Pitch black scales began to grow all over his body, making him invulnerable to blades and spears. He could even stop bullets. I tested it with a machete, and it only left a slight scratch on the scales. This time, Da-Fo had directly become the main battle tank of the zombie world. With this level 3 general guarding the main gate, my confidence skyrocketed. At the same time, I also found a new path to level up. Since high-level zombies were extremely rare, I would just use crystal cores to nurture my own zombie puppets. Kiki wasn't idle during this time either. She secretly ran to the fish pond to feed that old mutated turtle. For 3 days straight, she fed it the meat of the giant mutated python. She even hid her own fresh blood inside the meat. On the 3rd day, she executed a technique she had learned in a secret realm from her past life. It was the ancient beast taming art. She formed a contract with this giant turtle. From then on, she could give simple commands to the old turtle, and even communicate with it telepathically. She even imparted a cultivation technique to the old turtle, planning to nurture it in the future into an existence. As powerful as the great black tortoise from her past life. And I was completely oblivious to all of this. I just thought Chi-Chi liked the old turtle and was keeping it as a pet, so I just let her be. Next, I built a small amusement park for Chi-Chi. I hauled a carousel and other equipment back from the city park. Since there was no electricity, I just used zombie manpower to push them. When Chi-Chi saw it, even though she had zero interest in these childish toys deep down, she knew it was a gesture of her dad's love. So she played along and put on a happy face. But unexpectedly, having been an orphan in her past life, she had never experienced such a carefree childhood. Now, her childlike innocence awakened, and she played until she forgot everything else. As we sat on the carousel chasing each other, if you ignored the zombie puppets pushing it with all their might. It was definitely an incredibly heartwarming scene, but while Lightning one was transporting the amusement park equipment back and forth. An evolved human, who had awakened an invisibility ability, had been secretly observing. He followed Lightning one's truck all the way to King Shui Farm, and his worldview shattered upon witnessing the scene inside the farm. Finally, he discovered that a human little girl was actually living among the zombie horde. He guessed that Kichi was the one controlling these zombies. Greed took over, and he wanted to control her to seize this zombie army for himself. When Li Mo sneaked into Chiki's bedroom while invisible, just as his hand was about to grab her, his entire body suddenly froze in place.
Yun Ruokshu had cast time freeze.
Then, she leaped up and delivered a devastating slap that sent him flying. Next, using a soul artifact technique obtained from a secret realm in her past life, she engraved a blood-red rune into his brain, completely taking control of his life and death. Do you want to live or die? Li Mo looked at the blood-red rune engraved on him. His life and death were completely in her hands. Do you want to live or die? Li Mo didn't hesitate to choose submission. Yun Ruoksu ordered him to infiltrate the Zhenghai City survivor base as a spy and return periodically to report intel. I was still completely in the dark about all this, only seeing Kichi happily playing in the farm every day. Some time passed again. I went to harvest evolved zombies in the inner city. While hoarding crystal cores, I unexpectedly ran into Su Muqing again on a nearby street. Damn it! Why is this woman here too? It turned out that after Su Muqing went through the ordeal at the police station, she had followed our tracks all the way here, just to find Kichi. She looked incredibly disheveled from the journey, having been harassed by that vengeful burrowing zombie. To the point of near nervous breakdown, I knocked her out and chained her to the side of the slide in the amusement park. But this time, Su Muqing's personality seemed to have undergone a massive shift. After experiencing the betrayal of the survivors at the police station, she had completely lost faith in humanity. She only wanted to protect Kiki. Chi-Chi took the opportunity to reel her in step by step, bringing her food and chatting with her. Su Muqing got to experience a life with food and drink for the first time since the apocalypse began. A peaceful life, free from anxiety and fear. Even she herself had to admit, living with a zombie king was actually more comfortable than being in human society. At the same time, I continued to relentlessly grow my strength, sweeping through the evolved zombies in the Jiangnan region and feeding them crystal cores. The number of Tier 2 corpse puppets under my command has reached over 30. One night, after hunting mutated beasts at Mount Huanglong, I harvested a Tier 3 crystal core. Combined with the continuous harvest from the zombie breeding base at the stadium, I finally accumulated enough resources to break through to Tier 4. Swallowing 4 Tier 3 crystal cores at once, I broke through to Tier 4 on the spot. My spiritual power skyrocketed several times over. My control range broke through, breaking through to Tier 4. My spiritual power skyrocketed several times over. My control range broke through to 50 kilometers, my body underwent a complete metamorphosis. Aside from my dark red pupils, I look almost no different from a living human now. Next, I nurtured 4 Tier 4 corpse puppets in one go. At the same time, Yun Ruoxiu also quietly broke through to Tier 4. Her power surged to the point where she could fly for extended periods, and even cast various elemental secret arts. She used her spirit channeling art to control bees, monitoring the inside and outside of the farm. She even took advantage of a moment when I wasn't paying attention to cast the blood-refining art on the blood-sucking demon vines on the outskirts of the farm, bringing them under her control. Those blood-sucking demon vines were mutated plants I brought back from Mount Huanglong to cultivate. They can suck the flesh and blood of living creatures dry, but are completely unresponsive to zombies. I planted them 1,000 meters away from the farm to form a defensive line, but after Kichi deepened the blood refinement, this defensive line turned into a killing array that she could control at will. But danger was closing in. Because of the zombie tide appearing on the map, the Jianghai Survivor Base publicly announced the concept of a zombie king for the first time. The previous encounter of Wang Zheng's squad in the Jiangnan region had attracted the attention of the higher-ups. They dispatched an investigation team of stealth-capable evolvers, like Li Mo and his crew, to investigate. After Yun Ruoxiu sensed Li Mo approaching, she flew out of the farm under the cover of night to meet him. She ordered him to go back and report that they hadn't found any trace of a zombie king, but he had also killed the disobedient squad leader and used the soul vessel art to control the remaining 3. But how sharp was Wang Zheng? After realizing there was something wrong with the stealth team, he set a trap to trigger the soul vessel's restriction through hypnotic interrogation. The 4 stealth evolvers exploded and died on the spot. I knew there was a problem. Aside from his shock, Wang Zheng became even more certain that a zombie king was hiding in the inner city of Jiangnan. After reporting the news, the supreme commander of the base was furious and decided to dispatch forces. A zombie king is hiding in the inner city of Jiangnan. After reporting the news, the supreme commander of the base was furious and decided to dispatch 3 elite combat squads into the inner city of Jiangnan to carry out a capture mission. Yun Ruoxiu sensed the deaths of Li Mo and the others through a soul tremor, so she knew everything had been exposed. A storm is brewing, but I wasn't panicked at all. With my current strength, as long as humanity doesn't mobilize a large-scale armed army and only relies on evolver combat squads, they are simply no match for me and Dad. I focused all my mind on cultivation. Once I break through to Tier 5, even if I face a siege from humanity's modern military, I'll have the confidence to deal with them. As for me, I was completely unaware of these undercurrents and was still continuing to hunt mutated beasts at Mount Huanglong, accumulating crystal cores for my guard army. The 3 elite combat squads landed in the suburbs of Jiangnan's inner city. Wang Zheng acted as the supreme commander, with captains Li Feng and Zhang Hai assisting. In the squad, there was an evolver codenamed Falcon Hunter, who could share vision with his mutated Black Falcon. Falcon Hunter quickly discovered something. My god! That's actually a zombie driving a car. He saw an evolved zombie driving a truck through the inner city, transporting mutated beast flesh and blood back to the stadium to feed the zombie horde. Wang Zheng made a decisive call immediately. Keep a close eye on that truck. Let's see where it goes. Meanwhile, I was completely oblivious. After controlling the corpse puppet to finish feeding the zombies at the stadium, I drove straight back to Kingshui Farm. High in the sky above the truck, that Black Falcon stuck to it like a shadow. The Black Falcon followed the truck the entire way, all the way to the outskirts of Kingshui Farm. Falcon Hunter, through the Falcon's eyes, took in the entire view of the farm. I found that zombie. It drove into a farm in the suburbs. Falcon Hunter reported in a low voice. The farm's defenses are extremely strict. There's a massive patch of blood-colored vines outside the fence. At the entrance stands a giant zombie as tall as a 2-story building. At the entrance stands a giant zombie as tall as a 2-story building. The expressions of Wang Zheng and the other 2 changed drastically. The Zombie King's lair is at that farm.
Zhang Hai gulped.
That monster at the door. It's gotta be a tank-type zombie with over 3,000 combat power, right? With that kind of defense. I also saw, inside the farm, there are many abnormally large evolved zombies patrolling. Their auras are extremely fierce. At least 4 or 5 of them have reached Tier 3. But Falcon Hunter couldn't see the full picture. The Black Falcon wasn't flying low enough to conduct a complete reconnaissance. What do we do? Should we launch a frontal assault? Li Feng asked, frowning. Wang Zheng shook his head. No, the situation is still unclear. A reckless attack is too risky. Let's transmit the intel back to the base first, and let the higher-ups decide our next move. Besides, that patch of blood-colored vines doesn't look normal to me. It looks like some kind of mutated plant. I'm afraid it's a defense set up by the Zombie King. What about that mysterious little girl? If the Zombie King's lair is really at this farm, then it's highly likely Shez inside too. But the biggest threat right now isn't the girl. It's the Zombie King itself. Once we alert it, well, I'll die here. After the 3 discussed it, they decided to hold off on taking action for now. The farm's location and defensive layout were transmitted back to the Shanghai base via their comms. They awaited orders from above. The news quickly reached the Supreme Commander. The meeting room sank into a heavy atmosphere. Chief Wang Zhang has confirmed the location. The farm's defenses are extremely strict. There are at least several Tier 3 or higher evolved zombies guarding it. And there's a defensive line made of strange mutated plants outside the fence. Tier 3 zombies. The Supreme Commander furrowed his brows deeply. How many Tier 3 evolvers do we currently have in the base? No more than 10. Furthermore, they're all scattered across different posts. It'd be very difficult to mobilize all of them. The meeting room fell silent. Everyone understood clearly that with the base's current forces, trying to breach a stronghold defended by multiple Tier 3 zombies would yield an incredibly slim chance of victory. We can't force it, the Supreme Commander finally concluded. First, step up surveillance. Figure out the Zombie King's movement patterns and the limits of its strength. At the same time, report this to the Imperial capital and request reinforcements. Also, accelerate the training of our high-tier evolvers until the Imperial capital's reinforcements arrive. Absolutely do not alert the enemy. However, what they didn't know was that the big Buddha standing at the farm's entrance was already at Tier 4, including my main body. King Shui Farm actually possessed 6 Tier 4 combatants, and yet they were still using Tier 3 standards to gauge my strength. Inside King Shui Farm, I finished a day of hunting, returned home, and made a hearty dinner for Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi ate happily, smiling at me with a grain of rice stuck to the corner of her mouth. Su Mu-Ching also obediently ate the meal Chi-Chi gave her, secretly sizing me up as she ate. Why has this zombie king changed so much? If you don't look closely, you'd think he was a living human. She was shocked inwardly, and a terrifying speculation suddenly arose in her mind. Could it be that this zombie king will eventually evolve back into a living human? That night, Kyuchi suddenly came looking for Su Mu-Ching. If humans want to deal with my dad, which side will you help? Su Mu-Ching remained silent for a long time,
Not answering at all.
Which side will you help? Su Mu-Ching remained silent for a long time,
Not answering at all.
Chi-Chi didn't mind. As she turned to leave, she just left behind a single sentence. Never mind. There is no point in telling you anyway. Su Mu-Ching sat blankly on the bed, watching Kiki's retreating back. Her heart was in turmoil. Humanity and the Zombie King would ultimately have to stand on opposite sides of the battlefield, but Su Mu-Ching remembered what she had experienced at the police station. Then she thought about this farm. Every day, machines brought her food and chatted with her. Even though the Zombie King chained her up like a pet, he had never actually hurt her. She suddenly found herself ridiculous. Su Mu-Ching lay back down on the bed, staring at the slide above her head, sleepless for the entire night. At a high vantage point, dozens of kilometers away, Wang Zheng's Black Falcon was still hovering above King Shui Farm. Falcon Hunter, who was patrolling, suddenly opened his eyes. Captain Wang, a truck just drove out of the farm. It's heading towards Mount Huanglong again. Wang Zheng nodded. Keep tracking it. Record its daily movement patterns. Departure time, route, return time, record everything. Also, find a way to get a clear look at the core area inside the farm, especially where the true body of that Zombie King actually is. The Black Falcon silently soared through the sky, taking in everything at King Shui Farm. Yun Ruoxu was sitting on a swing, swaying back and forth. Her white dress fluttered in the wind, a radiant smile blooming on her rosy little face. Little Chi-Chi, it seems the matter has been resolved. Su Mu-Ching leaned against the slide, looking at Chi-Chi. You finally decided to come outside today.
Yun Ruoxu nodded.
Right now, even if the Shanghai base sends people to the farm, they'd just be throwing their lives away. So, little Chi-Chi, will you come outside every day from now on? Su Mu-Ching was a bit expectant. She was really bored being all alone in this playground. Of course. Yun Ruoxu nodded seriously. Since I want to subdue this 9-death demonic zither, I naturally have to nurture our bond. Su Mu-Ching suddenly turned serious. I will help you and your dad. Yun Ruoxu immediately reacted. This was Su Mu-Ching's answer to the question she had asked the other day. This answer surprised her greatly. After all, Su Mu-Ching had always been loyal to the government, valuing the protection of survivors even more than her own life. Why? Because I promised to protect you, Su Mu-Ching replied solemnly. She felt that a zombie king with human consciousness who had never massacred or murdered humans, and had little Chi-Chi as his sole concern here, was inherently non-aggressive. But if humans were to ever harm little Chi-Chi, no one knew if the Zombie King would go insane. At the same time, the Black Falcon followed the truck out of the Jiangnan City area, arriving in the sky above the suburban farm. Falcon Hunter, through the Falcon's eyes, took in the entire view of the farm. But what shocked him the most was a little girl playing on a swing. Beside her was a human woman, leaning against a slide and chatting with the girl. Captains, listen up. I've found that mysterious little girl. There is also a human woman with her. After the news was transmitted back, the three captains looked at each other. Wang Lei said in a deep voice, "It's possible that this little girl is the Zombie King." Yun Ruoxu suddenly felt
An uncomfortable sensation of being watched.
I silently channeled my psychokinesis, spreading it out like a tidal wave. I discovered a Black Falcon circling overhead. This was absolutely not a wild mutated beast, but an evolver's contracted pet. Yun Ruoxu quickly figured it out. It really is an evolver's contracted pet. Yun Ruoxu quickly figured it out. The intruders were definitely from the Zhanghai base. They sent people here again. I directly unleashed a psychokinetic attack, forming an invisible sword that pierced straight into the Black Falcon's brain. The Falcon's body staggered. The captain thought it was just exhausted and hurriedly recalled it. Yun Ruoxu smiled smugly, immediately controlling a sparrow to follow closely behind. The sparrow tailed it the entire way, and finally in a ravine outside the city, found the 3 evolver squads. Through the sparrow, Yun Ruoxu overheard their entire night raid plan. What I found most ridiculous was that this bunch of people actually mistook me for a zombie. After Yun Ruoxu's consciousness returned to her body, she ran straight up to me and pointed at the sky. Dad, I just saw flying people. Flying people? Could it be that human evolvers have found the farm? After confirming it with Chi-Chi, I was certain the farm had been exposed. Facing the sudden appearance of evolvers, my mood grew heavy. I immediately recalled my entire corpse puppet army. The 4 Tier 4 corpse puppets were all summoned back to surround our living quarters. To protect Chi-Chi, Su Muqing also noticed the anomaly. Chi-Chi, what's wrong? Other than human evolvers coming to cause trouble, what else could it be? Chi-Chi, can you talk to your dad? Tell him to untie me. I can lend a hand too. Yun Ruoxu smiled and shook her head. We don't need you for now. My dad is more than enough to handle this. Night fell. I sat in the living room, eyes closed in meditation, using the corpse puppet's vision to monitor the farm's surroundings. In the forest, 2 kilometers away from the farm, the 3 evolver squads revealed themselves. The target is right ahead. Everyone, be careful. Wang Lei said sternly, on the branch?
Look on the branch.
A small bee was watching them. They're just courting death. A flash of disdain appeared in Yun Ruoxu's eyes. When the 3 squads approached the wall of blood-sucking vines,
Right at the moment they bent down to cut the vines,
the blood-sucking demon vines pierced straight through 3 of their bodies, frantically devouring their flesh and blood. Not good. There is something wrong with this vine wall. By the time Wang Lei and the others reacted, 5 of them had already been swallowed into the vine wall. During the chaotic battle, another person was impaled. As for me, through the vision of the corpse puppets, I had already spotted the intruders.
Good.
Very good. Since you all have a death wish, then I'll gladly grant it. I controlled the Tier 4 corpse puppets to gather at the residential area. Tyrant No. 1 and 2nd Buddha were the first to charge out. 2nd Buddha swung its club down, smashing the first evolver charging forward, along with his shield into pieces. Flame No. 1 raised both hands, and dozens of giant fireballs rained down from the sky, exploding right in the middle of the crowd. 4 evolvers who were a bit too slow were instantly engulfed by the flames. The remaining 6 were blasted away, their bodies charred black. Shield Emperor No. 1 immediately activated an earthen wall, sealing the survivors inside. Stone spikes from the wall slowly closed in. Someone tried to climb over the high wall to escape, but was shot down by Flame No. 1's fireballs from the outside. Captain Lee took advantage of the chaos to scale the wall and flee, but was punched so hard by Tyrant No. 1 guarding outside that his body caved in, but was punched so hard by Tyrant No. 1 guarding outside that his body caved in. Captain Tu Lin and the others must have sacrificed themselves. Captain Tu Lin and the others must have sacrificed themselves. But I didn't realize that 1 evolver, relying on a substitution ability, had used the golden cicada shedding its shell trick to escape.
Yun Ruoxu, through the vision of the bloodthirsty vines,
Discovered a corpse that hadn't been devoured. A fish slipped through the net. Yun Ruoxu furrowed her brows deeply. The enemy must have used a cloning ability to escape. However, her true strength hadn't been exposed yet. The enemy had even mistaken him for the Zombie King. This meant that in the next clash, she could give the enemy a huge surprise. That night, Su Muqing tossed and turned in bed, unable to sleep. A thought suddenly popped into her head. What if I could stop humanity from attacking the Zombie King, so that both sides could achieve peaceful coexistence? Qian Yun brought back the grim news of the 3 combat squads. The entire force was wiped out. The Zombie King has multiple Tier 4 evolved zombies under its command, and even demonic vines that attack humans. Qian Yun said with a trembling voice. As the news spread, the Supreme Commander immediately decided to request aid from the Imperial capital.
Yun Ruoxu convinced me.
To unlock Su Muqing's chains, and Su Muqing requested to speak with me. In the living room, Su Muqing got straight to the point. Zombie King, you still retain your human consciousness, don't you? My eyes turned cold. This was my deepest, darkest secret. I wrote down, I won't kill you. Keep talking. Su Muqing took a deep breath. Xiao Qiqi is still human, after all. You don't want her living with zombies for the rest of her life, do you? Those words silenced me. If one day I become the leader of humanity, would you be willing to live in peace with humans? Both Yun Ruoxu and I were stunned by her words. But I didn't reject her outright. Wait until you actually become the leader of humanity, then we'll talk. The next day, Yoon Ruoksu decided to reveal a fraction of her true strength to me, so I would feel at ease unlocking her powers. Daddy, I think I awakened a superpower. She spread her arms, flying back and forth across the room. I was overwhelmed with emotion. Xiao Qiqi had become an evolver. I began to seriously train Xiao Qiqi. I had her practice attacking with iron nails, and prepared poison needles for her to use as hidden weapons. Xiao Qiqi practiced her attacks with iron nails. I prepared poison needles for her as hidden weapons. Xiao Qiqi was my ultimate trump card. The Jianghai base finally received a response from the imperial capital. They dispatched the Sky Squadron as reinforcements. Every single member of the Sky Squadron was a Tier 3 flying-type evolver. A fleet of 5 armed helicopters swiftly approached, launching a fierce bombardment on the farm. Damn it.
My farm.
But the Tier 4 corpse puppets remained completely unscathed. Flame No. 1 and Flame Num. 2 transformed into fire giants, conjuring a massive net of flames that blotted out the sky, trapping the Sky Squadron in mid-air. Corpse Puppet No. 1 used bloodthirsty lightning orbs and bloodthirsty divine light, coordinating with Tyrant No. 1's steel claws, to continuously slaughter the evolvers trying to break out. Hidden in the shadows, Yun Ruokshu used her time control abilities, paired with the poison needles, to take out multiple enemies charging toward the house. Su Muqing risked her life to protect Xiao Qi. She was pierced right through the stomach, collapsing in a pool of her own blood, but she quickly resurrected and threw herself right back into the fight. The 3 elite squads, along with the Sky Squad, were completely wiped out. Only Qian Yun, with his substitution ability, managed to escape once again. The farm was destroyed beyond recognition. I decided not to rebuild it. This place has been exposed. Wherever little Qiqi goes from now on, that place will be our home. That's what I wrote on the paper. Su Muqing chose to stay.
And come with us.
After our convoy left the farm, we headed straight south, arriving at the Baikan City area. I triggered a zombie tide, harvesting evolved zombies, while simultaneously wiping out the thugs occupying the area, the Dragon Tiger Gang. The second in command of the Dragon Tiger Gang, Zhang Qing, and a flying-type evolver managed to escape. When they fled to the Baikan base, he ratted me out. After clearing out the evolved zombies in the Baikan City area, our convoy hit the road again. After breaking through to level 5, my spiritual power skyrocketed. My control range exceeded 50 kilometers, with my ability range surpassing 50 kilometers. I could simultaneously control a massive number of level 4 corpse puppets. I already had 3 level 5 corpse puppets. The Shanchuan City area was completely different. Ferocious beasts were everywhere. I led my army of corpse puppets, hunting down the beasts on a massive scale throughout the city, and harvested a huge amount of crystal cores. After wiping out the Beast King cult occupying Mount Kangyu, I looted their caves and scavenged a ton of supplies and vegetables. Before dying, a protector of the Beast King cult mentioned that their cult master went to subdue a level 5 ferocious beast. This put me on high alert. Sure enough, the Beast King cult master, Huang Xian, came knocking at our door. Before the apocalypse, this guy was nothing but a debt collector. He rose to power after awakening his beast-taming ability. His sister was driven to her death by the elites, so he wanted to use the power of the thunderous roar to destroy the Shanchuan base. We share a common enemy. Let's join forces. Su Muqing flatly refused.
Sorry, am not interested.
After leaving in humiliation, Huang Xian sent a mutated pangolin that very night to ambush little Qiqi from underground. But Yun Ruoksu killed it in a single strike. The pangolin's death terrified Huang Xian into fleeing for his life, and he leaked our location to the Jianghai city base. In the Shanchuan city area, Yun Ruoksu successfully broke through to level 5 in telekinesis control. She could even condense materialized telekinetic needles that could pierce right through walls. As for her time control, she comprehended the profound mysteries of time, able to age a target instantly. Su Muqing, under the dual enhancement of her cultivation technique and real combat, also broke through to level 4. Auntie, from now on, you'll be called the Black Ox Knight.
No way?
Absolutely no. Su Muqing bristled with annoyance. The Imperial capital dispatched their ultimate trump card, the Soaring Dragon Squad. This squad had successfully killed a zombie king before. The key figure was the disguiser, Zhao Bing. The ultimate trump card, the Soaring Dragon Squad. This squad had successfully eliminated a zombie king before. The key figure was the disguiser, Zhao Bing, who could disguise himself as any living creature to infiltrate the enemy's ranks. Their plan was to use the same old trick, draw attention from the outside, while Zhao Bing disguised himself as a zombie and snuck in. Once he found the zombie king, he would kill it in one strike. One night, Yun Ruoksu finally mustered the courage to confess to me. Dad, I actually know how to control time. She used her ability, causing a potted pothos plant to wither instantly. A piece of snake meat immediately shriveled up as if it had been left out for ages. Aside from being shocked, I was even more curious. But little Kichi revealed an even more terrifying truth. Dad, actually already a level 5 evolver. I froze right on the spot. But I didn't press her for more details. As long as she's my daughter, that's all that matters.
Dad, let me protect you from now on?
Little Kichi raised her tiny fist. Smiling brightly, I rubbed her head, feeling a warm sense of pride in my heart. After the convoy entered Lijiang City, I routinely controlled the corpse puppets to harvest zombie crystal cores. But the Lijiang base reacted incredibly fast. They mobilized all their military forces and launched a fierce attack on the Hengye apartment complex. Flame No. 1. Thanks to its fire spirit body, was immune to physical attacks, but the rapid fire barrage from the self-propelled howitzers caught me off guard. In that split second when everything hung by a thread,
Yun Ruoxiu furiously made her move.
no one is allowed to hurt my dad. Time control. She unleashed her full power. Driven by her telekinesis, all the artillery shells reversed their trajectory, directly wiping out the heavy artillery regiment's position. The survivors retreated in a panic, only to be hunted down by my army of corpse puppets. Only one evolver managed to grab the commander and teleport away to escape. In this battle, the Lijiang base's attacking forces were nearly wiped out. I looked at the terrifying strength little Kichi had displayed. Feeling immensely proud. The moment she made her move, she beat the humans so badly they were completely routed. Any level 5 corpse puppet under my command wouldn't necessarily be a match for her. Meanwhile, from afar, the soaring Dragon Squad's helicopter was flying towards Shanchuan City. Zhao Bing, the one who could disguise himself as any living creature, was wiping the combat blade in his hand, wearing a confident smile. Don't worry, Captain. I guarantee it'll complete the mission this time. After the Battle of Lijiang ended, I sat on the sofa in the living room, observing the surroundings through the vision of my corpse puppets. Dad, we can't keep staying here anymore. Yun Ruoxiu walked up to me, her face serious. I nodded. I had already thought of this earlier. In that last battle, even though we won, the cost of being exposed was too high. Su Muqing walked over from the window, her face still stained with dirt from the fight. Li Moyan, we need to leave right now. The Lijiang base's reaction speed is way too fast. If they call in reinforcements,
We might get surrounded.
half an hour later, the convoy sped south along the main road of Lijiang City. I deliberately chose a route, far away from the city base, through Flight No. Once aerial reconnaissance, I confirmed that the remnant forces of the Lijiang base showed no signs of pursuing us for now. The convoy drove at full speed for 2 hours, finally making it out of Lijiang City's limits. Dad, where are we going next? Yun Ruoxiu leaned against the backseat window, her small face pressed against the glass as she looked outside. I spread out the map, my eyes scanning over the map of Jiang Province. Heading south is Linen City. Going further south will take us out of Jiang Province. The bases throughout Jiang Province have already formed an information network between cities. My whereabouts basically can't be hidden, but as long as we get out of Jiang Province, the bases in different provinces will be much slower at transmitting information. By the time the other provinces react, it'll be long gone. Leaving Jiang Province, Su Muqing was a bit surprised. Leaving the province means we have to travel really far. Going a bit further is a good thing. Yun Ruoxiu answered for me. If we stay in Jiang Province, we'll be found out sooner or later. Su Muqing thought about it for a moment and didn't object anymore. The convoy continued heading south. Along the way, I casually harvested a batch of zombie crystal cores. By dusk, we set up camp next to an abandoned gas station. The campfire blazed. Su Muqing picked up a piece of grilled ribs for little Chi-Chi, while she herself took a huge swig of beer. Little Kichi, with these cooking skills, do you think your dad used to be a chef? Probably. Yun Ruoxiu smiled as she took the ribs. I sat in the passenger seat, flipping through the map. From here to the Jiang Province border is about 200 kilometers. But the problem is, on this route, there's Linen City, which we can't avoid. The Linen City area stretches from north to south. Trying to bypass it is almost impossible. We can only go straight through the city, and Linen City definitely has a city base. I frowned. If the Lijiang base had already sent out the news, the Linen City base is likely already on high alert. When the time comes to cross through the inner city, it might unfortunately turn into another fierce battle. Yun Ruoxiu seemed to notice my worries. She trotted over, leaning on the car window and poking her head in to look at the map. Dad, are you thinking about Linen City? I nodded. Don't worry, I'm here. Dad, don't worry, I'm here. She clenched her tiny fists, her eyes incredibly serious. This little kid. I couldn't help but chuckle, reaching out to pinch her chubby cheeks. But right in this brief moment of peace, through Flight No. 1's perspective, I caught sight of small black dots on the northern horizon. They were high in the sky, speeding rapidly toward us. My expression instantly turned cold again. Those errant helicopters from the Lijiang base. Zhao Lin, get little Chi-Chi in the car. I tossed a piece of paper to Su Muqing. Su Muqing didn't say a word. She scooped up Yun Ruoxu and ran straight into the car.
Yun Ruoxu narrowed her eyes slightly.
3 helicopters. They're not from Lijiang. Su Muqing's expression also changed, but the helicopters only hovered a few kilometers to the north for a while, then disappeared from sight. I didn't let my guard down at all. I controlled flight. No. 1 to secretly tail them for a bit. Through flight, no. 1's perspective, I saw 7 heavily armed soldiers step out of the helicopters. Among them, the buzz-cut man leading the group exuded the aura of a level 4. After these 7 people got off the helicopters, they immediately set up camp on the spot. These guys are not simple. They're either elites from some major city base, or they were sent by the imperial capital. Thinking of the imperial capital, my heart tightened. After I completely wiped out the Sky Squad at the King Shui farm, the ones coming this time are probably the imperial capital's second trump card. I decided to hold my ground for now. I had flight no. When continue monitoring their movements, while ordering the convoy to turn off the engines and hide in the shadows. After that 7-man squad set up camp, based on how frequently they checked their maps and reviewed their documents, they were absolutely on some kind of mission. This is no coincidence. They came specifically for me. Yun Ruoxu wasn't asleep yet either. She sat cross-legged in the back seat, cultivating. Sensing the shift in my emotions, she asked, "Dad, is something wrong?" I wrote on a piece of paper, "There is a small 7-man squad approaching from the north. They're extremely well-equipped. Suspected to be from the imperial capital. They're likely looking for us." After Yun Ruoxu read it, her little brows furrowed slightly. If it's a trump card squad from the imperial capital, there's a high chance someone among them has a special ability. Last time, the Sky Squad was entirely made up of flying types. This time, there might be someone even tougher to deal with. This was exactly what I was most worried about. Suddenly, from within that 7-man squad, a tall, skinny young man left the camp. He walked alone into the nearby mountain forest. After he entered the forest, the aura on his body suddenly shifted from a human's to the aura of a zombie. This guy can disguise himself as a zombie. In an instant, I completely understood their tactics. If I hadn't known beforehand, completely unaware. This disguiser could have successfully infiltrated my corpse puppet army. Wait until he got close to me, then strike unexpectedly. The previous zombie king was very likely taken down this exact way. "Little Kichi, we've got trouble." I told Yun Ruoxu about the disguiser. After Yun Ruoxu read it, her face turned incredibly serious. Disguising as a zombie. The innocent look on her small face vanished, replaced by a sharp, piercing gaze. This kind of ability is indeed extremely rare. If his disguise is flawless enough, Dad, even your spiritual power might not be able to tell the difference. But I can. Her tone was calm yet full of confidence. Time control. Can sense the flow of time in all living things. The flow of time for a zombie and a human. Can inherently sense the flow of time in all living things. The flow of time for a zombie and a human is completely different. The aging process in a zombie's body has stopped. But for a human, no matter how they disguise themselves, the flow of time in their body remains normal. As long as I sense it carefully, I can definitely drag him out. I felt a wave of relief. But I still didn't want to underestimate the enemy. We're changing the plan. I wrote on the paper, "We're not going through Linen City anymore. We'll detour through the mountain roads to get out of the province." Su Muqing woke up at this moment, rubbing her eyes as she leaned over to look at the paper. "A detour, that's gonna add a few more days to our trip. A few extra days is still better than getting ambushed." Su Muqing looked at our expressions and didn't ask any more questions. Before dawn broke, I deliberately chose a remote trail through the mountains. This road was incredibly difficult to traverse, but the advantage was its extremely high concealment. But I had underestimated the enemy's tracking abilities. After the convoy had been moving for about 3 hours, I received news that 7-man squad had broken camp and was moving south. Their direction was parallel to our route. They're tailing us. Through flight, no. Once aerial perspective, I spotted a mutated ferocious bird circling in the sky above our convoy. Shooting down this bird would be easy, but I was afraid of tipping them off. It would very likely make them change their strategy immediately, switching from an ambush to a frontal assault. After thinking for a moment, if they wanted to use the disguiser to assassinate me, then I'd beat them at their own game. I explained the plan to Yun Ruoxu and Su Muqing. "Dad, you mean? Intentionally expose a flaw,
Lure the disguiser into infiltrating.
and then catch him in one fell swoop." Su Muqing was a bit hesitant. The risk is too high. What if that disguiser's ability is stronger than we imagine? His ability is much stronger than we think. With me here, he won't be able to cause any trouble. Yun Ruoxu patted her small chest. Su Muqing looked at little Chi-Chi, remembering what happened yesterday. The sight of her reflecting all the artillery shells from the convoy, she immediately kept her mouth shut. According to the plan, the convoy at dusk stopped at a spacious river valley to set up camp. I deliberately deployed only a small number of corpse puppets. The high-level guards were hidden in the surrounding mountain forest. From the outside, The defense of the entire camp was full of holes. After dark, I sat by the fire, pretending to relax. But in reality, my spiritual power was fully expanded. Yun Ruoksu lay in the tent sleeping. But in reality, my time control ability has been constantly active. Sumu Ching was truly asleep. In the middle of the night, my mental power caught an anomaly. On the outskirts of the camp, an ordinary zombie was slowly approaching. He looked no different from any other zombie, but his movement path was too deliberate. He bypassed the patrolling corpse puppets, following the gaps in the defense toward the center of the camp. I didn't alert him. Instead, I continued to pretend I hadn't noticed. The zombie got closer and closer, reaching the edge of the camp. His eyes scanned around the campfire, then locked onto me. He held a short blade in his hand and lunged straight at me. Just as the imposter reached a point 5 meters away, his time came to a halt.
Yun Ruoksu stepped out of the tent.
Her small face cold. As I thought, as human, she said calmly. There is no flow of time in a zombie's body, but his heart is still beating. I stood up and walked over to the imposter to observe this person's disguise from his appearance to his beating heart. I stood up and walked over to the imposter to observe this person's disguise from his appearance to his aura was almost flawless. If not for Yun Ruoksu's time control, I might not have realized it immediately. The next second, I released my mental power, ordering an all-out attack for the rank 5 guardians, hiding in the mountains and forests. Meanwhile, at the temporary camp of the 7-man squad a few kilometers away, they immediately felt a violent surge of killing intent.
This is bad.
The scout has been exposed. The leader, a buzz-cut man named Ching He, had a drastic change in expression. He bolted upright. Team, prepare for battle. But it was too late. Flame 1's Blood Flame Spirit Fire arrived first. In less than 10 seconds, 3 helicopters were turned into giant fireballs. Our retreat is cut off. An Evolver's face turned pale. Undying One followed closely behind. A blood-colored light enveloped an Evolver who was trying to use his ability. That person felt his body stop obeying him, flying straight toward Undying One. In the next instant, a long, bloody tongue pierced through his chest. Flyer 1 dove down from above, deploying his Sky Flight domain under the coverage of the spherical stasis domain. 2 long-range attacks from the Evolvers were immediately slowed down, their power reduced to almost zero. However, Flyer 1's steel claws were unaffected. That person's ability was body metallization. His entire body was covered in a layer of silver metal armor, providing extreme defense. Big Thump swung his club down. That metal armor dented but didn't shatter. But the second strike followed immediately. The metal armor exploded, and he spat blood, flying backward. Before he could even hit the ground, Undying One's long tongue caught up, killing him on the spot. Through my subordinate's vision, I confirmed that not a single person from the 7-man squad survived. Breathing a sigh of relief, I walked through the camp, looking at the imposter who was still frozen in place. How should we handle him? Sumu Ching was also awakened by the noise. She threw on a coat and stepped out, startled.
Kill him, Yun Ruoksu said flatly.
She waved her hand, and a telekinetic needle pierced the imposter's forehead.
Time control
Was released, and the imposter's body collapsed to the ground, reverting to his human appearance. Su Muqing knelt down, pulling an ID card from the corpse's inner pocket. Tenglong Combat Team. I felt no ripple of emotion in my heart. But Yun Ruoksu's reaction surprised me a little. She stared at that card for a long time. The Imperial Capital has sent 2 ace combat teams in a row, and both were completely wiped out. Next time, I'm afraid they won't send a combat team, but a whole army. Yun Ruoksu looked up, her gaze deep. Once the Imperial Capital confirms the news that 2 ace teams were destroyed, they will list our 3 zombies at the highest threat level. By then, the intensity of the hunt will multiply. The destruction of the 2 ace teams only further convinced the Imperial Capital of the Zombie King's danger. They won't give up. They'll only increase their military force. That's why we need to leave early. I wrote on the paper. That night, the convoy set off immediately, no longer staying behind. I had Flyer 1 fly at a high altitude for constant reconnaissance, ensuring no pursuers were following us. As we approached the outskirts of Linen City, I decided not to take a detour, but to cut straight through the city. A detour would take at least 5 more days. Staying in the wilderness for 5 more days meant 5 more days of risk. Although there's a city base in downtown Linen, but the city area is massive. As long as we choose a route far from the city base, and move through quickly, the chances of being spotted are low. I released my mental energy early on. I tamed every zombie along our path, ordering them to clear the way for the convoy. The entire convoy moved through the night, navigating the inner city streets, without making a single sound. The convoy successfully passed through most of the districts in downtown Linen. The southern exit of the city was just ahead.
Right then, Flight No.
One sent back an urgent report. On the overpass at the city's southern gateway, a military convoy had come to a halt. A line of armored vehicles and military trucks blocked the bridge, forming a fortified checkpoint. Snipers were even stationed on the buildings flanking the bridge. It was the military from the Lenin city base. But after a closer look, I realized these soldiers weren't in a combat-ready state. The Lenin base likely set up checkpoints at all major exits. After receiving the report about the Zombie King's appearance, Dad, we can't go through this way,
Yun Ruokshu said.
even if we could blast our way through, it would cause too much of a scene, and the entire city base's forces would be on our tail. I agreed that a detour was the best option. The convoy changed direction, heading into a secluded alleyway, circling toward the west using the map. I planned to cut through the industrial zone on the west side of Lenin and leave the city via the ring road there. But the road conditions in the industrial zone were terrible. Ruined factories and gridlocked vehicles were everywhere. 20 minutes later, the convoy emerged from the industrial zone and entered the city's ring road. Just as I thought we were about to make a clean break, the roar of helicopter engines suddenly echoed behind us. 3 attack helicopters were flying in from the direction of the city. Beams from their searchlights swept through the darkness, searching for something. Speed up. The moment the thought crossed my mind, I willed it so, and the convoy abruptly accelerated. The helicopters quickly gave chase, their searchlights locking onto the convoy. Then the onboard cannons opened fire. Shells slammed into the road behind the convoy, sending sparks flying everywhere. Convoy ahead. Stop immediately for inspection. Otherwise, we will open fire. I didn't pay them any mind. Flame no. One soared up from the convoy, transforming into a streak of blazing red light. It lunged straight at the helicopter formation. Amidst a massive explosion, fire lit up the sky, and debris rained down in all directions. The searchlights went dark, and the pursuit was cut short. The convoy raced at full speed across the city limits. Vanishing into the thick of the night, we made it out. Su Muqing breathed a sigh of relief, but I still didn't feel at ease. The Lenin base will definitely report the convoy's direction to their superiors. Every second counts for the rest of this journey. The convoy drove like mad the entire way. By daybreak, we finally saw the sign marking the border between Jiang province and the neighboring province. But the moment the convoy crossed the provincial line, Flight No. 20 transmitted an image from above. That made my smile freeze. On a mountain south of the provincial border, Huang Xuan was standing there, looking down at the convoy as it crossed the border. He just stood there watching from a distance, seemingly tracking and observing us. Yun Ruokshu also noticed Huang Xuan's presence, a flash of coldness crossing her small face. That man is very dangerous. He won't give up. Should we take him out first? I shook my head. Wang Jin's mutated pangolin might have been killed by us. But since He's a beast tamer, he might still have an ace up his sleeve in the shadows. Besides, now isn't the best time to deal with him. Once we're out of the province, we'll have to plan everything carefully. Once we're out, we'll have to plan everything carefully. For now, let's just keep moving. I signaled the convoy to continue south, entering the neighboring province's territory. After leaving Jiang province, the road conditions improved significantly. The highways were wide, and though there were still traffic jams, it was nowhere near as rugged as the mountain roads from before. 3 days later, we arrived at Yunzhou in the neighboring province. Before the apocalypse, Yunzhou was a metropolis of 3 million people. Now, it had also become a domain for the zombies. But to me, this place was a massive treasure trove. 3 million people meant a staggering number of zombies. A massive number of zombies meant countless evolved zombies and spirit crystals. Furthermore, this place was far from Jiang province, so news would travel slowly. For a short while, I wouldn't have to worry about being hunted by human bases. After the convoy entered downtown Yunzhou, I stirred up a zombie tide as usual, sweeping through the surrounding area and harvesting spirit crystals one by one. Yun Ruokshu took the opportunity to focus on her cultivation, while also nurturing her old turtle. After several days of accumulation, the old turtle finally successfully leveled up to the purple grade. Its body had grown so large that you could practically set a table on its back and play a game of cards. Su Muqing wasn't idle either. Every day, he would ride the mutated black ox, Da He, out to hunt wild beasts, steadily increasing his strength. At the same time, he persisted in practicing the 9 origins pulse-severing technique that Yun Ruokshu had taught him, his aura becoming deeper and more profound by the day. As for me, I used this time to expand the ranks of the zombie puppets under my command. By harvesting the spirit crystals from the zombies in Yunzhou, I managed to nurture several more purple-grade zombie puppets. With this kind of strength, even if I had to face a mid-sized base head-on, I would have the confidence to win. But all I wanted was to find a place safe enough for little Chi-Chi to grow up. Unfortunately, on the 5th night of our stay in Yunzhou, all I wanted was to find a safe place for little Chi-Chi to grow up. Unfortunately, on the 5th night of our stay in Yunzhou, through the aerial reconnaissance of Flight No.
1.
I discovered that to the northwest of Yunzhou City, a massive convoy was moving in our direction. Dozens of military vehicles, armored cars, and tanks, escorted by 6 attack helicopters. In the center of the convoy, There were even several command vehicles painted with special insignias. They were heading straight for the heart of Yunzhou. Has the news already reached this far? My heart sank. It seems the imperial capital has issued a wanted notice for the zombie king, and it's already spread to the neighboring provinces. This army is likely a suppression force formed by the neighboring province's base city after they received the notification. But I can't rule out the possibility that Huang Xuan leaked my location to the base on this side. Regardless of the situation, I can't stay here any longer. Su Muqing had already grown used to this life on the run. He silently began packing our things. Yun Ruoxu walked over to the window, staring out at the silent streets below. Dad, will we have to keep running like this forever? I knew she was right, but at this moment, besides running,
What else could we do?
there will come a day when we won't have to run anymore. Yun Ruoxu turned her head and gave me a smile. In that smile, there was a sense of calm and resolve that far exceeded her age. At the break of dawn, the convoy vanished into the Yunzhou night, dozens of kilometers away. That powerful military convoy was still advancing inside the command vehicle. A middle-aged man with a cold expression was flipping through a file. The cover of the file was stamped in red with the word Top Secret. The title consisted of only 4 words, Zombie King Dossier. The man closed the file and looked into the distance, toward the city of Yunzhou shrouded in darkness. This time, you won't get away.